The following is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated. See, one game offered 5 touchdowns, and another game, the team was 5 yards short. Who are those teams? Well, welcome to Total Football Talk. Well, welcome once again to another edition of Total Football Talk. Gridiron talk, news and fun the way you like it. I am one of the co-hosts of this program, Cole Johnson, a.k.a. the Mad Scientist and EP Extraordinaire. And I am joined, as always, by the other co-hosts of this program. Oh, I don't know. Let's see, Mr. In or Out, Mr. Commander's Gridiron Report, Mr. D. Willie in the Evening, otherwise known as D. Willie, or Drew Willingham. How you doing, my brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, brother. Looking forward to another great edition of our Total Football Talk show. Episode 10 is underway as we are live now on 5 platforms this morning. Hello to everyone in the chat, as well as on PSF, the app for pro sports fans.
Yes, we're glad to have PSF join us, and we're, of course, always glad to have the YouTube audience and even someone on the LinkedIn and Twitch join us too. Well, let's get things started. Opening drive, please.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Break.
All right, we will start on the teams that were on bye for this past week. And of course, that would be the Broncos, the Lions, the 49ers, and the Jaguars. Of course, we'll feature the last 2 teams in the upcoming featured attraction segment. But the Jaguars, the 49ers, the Lions, and the Broncos were on byes for week number 9. And speaking of week number 9, let's start with the Thursday night action from week number 9. So the capture bottle, I'm sorry, my bad. The stadium formerly known as the capture bottle hosted the Steelers and the Titans. And it was a nip and tuck battle throughout, but well, a Deontay Johnson reception with a little bit more than 2 minutes left to go in the game put the Steelers up 20-16, and then an interception in the Steelers end zone thrown by Will Levis sealed the deal as the Steelers beat the Titans 20-16. Well, you had Deontay Johnson, as I mentioned, 7 receptions, 90 yards, and the game-winning touchdown reception. The Steelers offense put forth 166 rushing yards, and the Steelers defense, with Alex Highsmith leading the way with 2 sacks, gave you 4. And Will Levis, in his second NFL start, did pretty good. 22-39, 262 yards. Unfortunately, he threw that interception at the last drive. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
You know, looking right here, it's this game. Last week, we had Will Levis throwing those 4 touchdowns, and people got hype about what was going on with Will Levis in Tennessee land. But Cole Johnson was not drinking the Kool-Aid, as this situation right here definitely proved on Thursday Night Football that Will Levis just played a defense that couldn't match up to what he was slinging out there on that green. When it comes to this game right here, 20-16 victory for the Steelers. You know, it's looking like it could go the Titans' way as they were up 16-13 going into the fourth quarter. but Levis just couldn't get the ball in the end zone, passing it around, and had that one interception that cost them the game. Derrick Henry, 75 yards on 17 carries, averaging 4.4 yards per carry, and a touchdown just wasn't enough for the Titans. When you look at Kenny Pickett, though, 19 of 30 for a 160 yards and a touchdown. MVP. Oh, my bad. Not MVP like numbers, but hey, it was just enough to get that team the victory, and they did. It wasn't pretty, but it happened, and it got them the victory for the Steelers. And now they can say that they are 2 games over 500 at 5-3.
Stop it. Get some help.
Already. Goodness gracious. Kenny Pickett MVP performance. I'm going to touch on that later on in this segment. But, unfortunately for the Titans, fortunately for me, they fall to 3-5, while the Steelers, they improve to 5-3. You will hear that total. You will hear that standings number 2 more times in that same division.
Nice transition.
Thank you. As the NFL decides to continue its international series, but not in England, in Germany, where we had the Chiefs and the Dolphins square off. The Chiefs dominated the first half. The Dolphins dominated the second half. Unfortunately, a fumble by the Cheetah proved to be the difference as the Chiefs beat the Dolphins 21-14. This was basically a pedestrian game. Patrick Mahomes, 20 of 30, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns and a lost fumble. Tua Tagovailoa, 21 of 34, 193 yards and a touchdown. Raheem Mostert, 12 carries for 85 yards and a touchdown. And both defenses actually came to play. Pretty much the defenses made that game a stalemate. As I said, the difference was the Cheetah fumble late in the second quarter. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
You know, in 2 out of the last 3 games, the Dolphins have been extinguished by the previous Super Bowl's contenders, being the Eagles and the Chiefs. And in this one, it was a close one. Like you said, that one play pretty much was the difference maker here. There's a reason why Kansas City is now 7-2 and doing pretty well this season. It's not all Taylor Swift. It's not all the Swifty magic over there at Arrowhead. But what I can tell you is Patrick Mahomes, even though he's not throwing for Mahomes-like numbers, 300-plus yards a game like we were privy to seeing for quite some time, he's doing just enough to help this team get over the hump. As for 20 of 30 for 185 yards and 2 touchdowns, definitely was what helped get this team over the hump this past weekend. When you look at Travis Kelce, only 3 receptions, 14 yards, definitely not numbers that we're used to seeing from him. And this team around him, Noah Gray led with receptions, 3 receptions, 34 yards. If this team is going to have a shot at getting back to the Super Bowl, they can't be winning games consistently 21-14 and doing this in close games, especially against a team like the Dolphins, who have been explosive this year and are 6-3 for a reason. So when it comes to this right here, they've got to find a way to keep spreading the ball around. Like Mahomes is spreading the ball around, but he's not doing it enough, in my opinion. I feel like they need to get more production out of these receivers, but it's only pretty much a little over the midway point of the season. They've got a little bit more time to get this together. But if it stays this way 8 to 9 weeks from now, I'm not going to have high hopes for them potentially repeating this year.
Wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. Real quick to the chat. Snowman, what's up? Everything is good over here. Hope everything's good where you are. VLock83 or Fikala. He says, let's go with some total football with the EP of all EPs, Cole Johnson, and the big game hunter of Dumpster Pelicans everywhere, Sensei Drew Willingham. Mickey says, morning, Drew and Cole. And he says he shared the program. We appreciate you. Thank you for the love, Mickey. All the way from Norway, Sig Diggy says, what's good, everybody? I hope everything is good with you, and good afternoon to you, sir. Ryan McCarthy at No Credentials Required. He says, good morning, fellas. I have a feeling a certain QB that wears green in the New York metropolitan area will be distinguished as, I don't know what this Dumpster Pelican thing is this week. Ryan goes on to say, I said it once and I'll say it again. I will not take the Miami Dolphins seriously until they beat an above 500 team. Well, it looks like you are not alone, sir, because it looks like it's going to be a lot of people that are going to feel that way. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in another segment. He also says, Taylor Swift, Germany. Ew. Isn't that where germs are from?
The shenanigans are underway, and we've only been going for about 15 minutes. We got over 2.5 hours left to go. This is going to be one interesting episode on this Tuesday morning.
And I haven't even drink coffee yet. Goodness gracious. Wow. To the Sunday at 1 p.m. kickoff games, we'll begin actually with a good feel-good story as the Vikings went into ATL to face off against the Falcons. And in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, we saw a minor miracle as the Vikings beat the Falcons 31-28. The Vikings offense gave you 146 rushing yards. Taylor Heineke, for a losing cause, threw 21 for 38, 268 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Jonnu Smith sighting, 5 receptions, 100 yards, and a TD. The Falcons defense, 4 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries. But the star of this program, Joshua Dobbs, coming in for Jaron Hall. He gave you 20 of 30 for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did lose 2 fumbles, but he also gave you 7 carries for 66 more yards and a rushing touchdown. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
I don't know whether to be excited for Josh Dobbs for what he did in this game or to be disappointed in the Atlanta Falcons defense because it could go either way. This dude doesn't even know the playbook yet, Cole. He was just brought in on Halloween. So he's brought in 5 days, a little under 5 days before game time when this game actually took place. Definitely maybe have only known at most a dozen plays that were emergency plays had he had to go in. And unfortunately, that emergency took place this past weekend. He did enough to get the job done, 20 of 30. As far as completions, his numbers look very similar to how they were in Arizona when he took over for that stretch. 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, and protected the ball is what we've seen primarily throughout this season, like he did with Arizona with no turnovers right there. Taylor Heineke didn't do bad either for 21 of 38, 268 yards, touchdown, and 1 interception. But unfortunately, that 1 interception was what the difference maker was in this game, as the Vikings only won 31-28. Of course, we'll get into it a little bit more here in a little bit, but the sad news coming out of the rushing attack for the Minnesota game when it comes to that team. But, they still have a lot of potential for this season to potentially make the playoffs as a 6th or 7th seed, as they are 5-4 right now at this point in the season, primarily because of the weight on the shoulders of Kirk Cousins. But you got a pretty decent backup now in Josh Dobbs. Hopefully with this week, they can get more plays in the noggin upstairs for him and definitely keep this thing trending upward for this team. Definitely a good thing for him and a confidence boost for this team. But at the same time, big question marks over there in Atlanta for that defense and the big old mustache being Arthur Smith.
The Falcons dropped to 4-5. The Vikings, they improved to 5-4. Goodness, I'm sorry. The Arthur Smith mustache thing just throws me off. Goodness gracious. Let's go to Cleveland, shall we? Where in the First Energy Stadium we saw a shutout. And yes, you would think that the Guardians pitched a shutout to the Diamondbacks, but no, it was not. As the Browns beat down on the Cardinals 27-0. Amari Cooper gave you 5 receptions, 139 yards, and a touchdown. The Browns defense gave you 7 sacks, with Dalvin Tomlinson leading the way with 2.5 of them. They also gave you 2 INTs and they had a fumble recovery. But you had Deshaun Watson, who actually led the way, 19 of 30, 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. Very ho-hum performance by the Browns, at least in my estimation. The Cardinals are the Cardinals. Your thoughts, sir?
All right, people.
Let me talk to you.
When it comes to this game right here, this was one of the ugliest games we have seen all season, especially from the Arizona Cardinals, who were pretty much relevant throughout this season, even though their record says otherwise. The previous person we were just talking about, Joshua Dobbs, was keeping them close in these games that they were losing. You got this guy in there now who's the quarterback for this week, Clayton Tune, 11 of 20, 58 yards, 2 interceptions, looking like Tommy DeVito, old Danny DeVito's long-lost relative over there in New York, suited up for Arizona and played as they got blanked 27-0. Now, of course, the big news out of Arizona is the resurgence of a quarterback this upcoming week, but we'll get to that here in a little bit on this show. But when it comes to the play from the Cardinals, definitely not what we're accustomed to seeing. Deshaun Watson steps it up, got that shoulder rub or whatever he did for that from the pregame rituals that he has, because he had 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, 19 of 30 for his completions on attempts. But that running game has got to improve. Their number one rusher, Jerome Ford, 20 of 44, 2.2 yards per carry. Definitely needs to step it up if they're going to have a chance of keeping this going upward against teams that are actually relevant, because you got lucky in this one against Arizona, not having a quarterback and not having much around him in this week.
Yeah, I agree. And yes, the Cardinals, they fall to 1-8. Again, another team in the AFC North that will be 5-3. That would be your Cleveland Browns. Yeah, but that game was a game that was not. D. Willie's beloved Commanders going to Foxborough and playing the Patriots. It was a nip and tuck game-ish. The Commanders had control for most of it, and they sealed that control with the INT of Mac Jones, as the Commanders beat the Patriots 20-17. Sam Howell gave you another 300-yard passing performance, 29 out of 45, 325 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. The Commanders' offense also gave you and chipped in with 124 rushing yards. On the losing end, Ramondre Stevenson. Oh my gosh, the name I'm shocked to see and hear now. 9 carries, 87 yards of the touchdown. He also gave you 4 more receptions for 42 receiving yards. And the Patriots defense, unfortunately, it shows that there's still holes in that offensive line for the Commanders. 3 sacks. And of course, we mentioned INT, and they get a fumble recovery. Your thoughts on your beloved Commanders taking home a victory in Foxborough?
Now, Cole, let's not get too excited about Ramondre Stevenson. He had one out of those 87 yards. He had 1 rush for 64 yards, meaning that he was 8 rushes for 23 yards outside of that 1 rushing touchdown that he had. So I can't get excited for the one who has a cool name, okay? But when it comes to this offensive line for the Commanders, they're improving. I can't throw so much shade on them. They're improving because 3 sacks given up is better than 6 to 8 sacks, as they did a couple weeks ago that we were talking about in that one game. But 44 sacks throughout 9 games is a lot of sacks, a lot of beating that Sam Howell's taken. With all that said, the kid is still stepping up each and every week and looking better, throwing for over 300 yards. With an offensive line like this, what other teams do we know that consistently have a quarterback at this age throw for over 300 yards consistently when you're getting beat up as bad as you are with the amount of sacks that you're taking? Because David Carr, the year that he set the sack record, was not producing numbers like this, wasn't winning games like this.
Winning close.
And even though I don't feel like the Patriots shouldn't, the score should have been a wider margin than it was. Because when you look at the time of possession, you know, the Patriots only had the ball for 15 total minutes in this game, pretty much for the total of 1 quarter. The Commanders had the ball for a total of almost 3 quarters of the game. In the first 3 quarters of the games where we saw the most production, in the 4th quarter, there was no score. There was nothing really going on but a stalemate in the 4th quarter. So except for that field goal by Joey Slye to take the lead after they had tied it up on that touchdown pass, Jahan Dotson, to make it a 20-17 game, it's stuck there. But had you played a better team than a 2-6 team at that time, the Patriots, who have now fallen to 2-7, this would not have gone this way. This is why you've lost these close games to Philadelphia and others, because you cannot close. Jonathan Allen said it during the postgame yesterday. that we have got to do better. We're doing really well for 3/4 of a game, but now we need to find a way to close it out because it's not going to keep rolling in our favor this way if we keep ending games this way. But at least a positive note for the Commanders as they get the win and end that losing streak. Great things to see for that team on this day. I just hope that they build on this.
To your point about Jonathan Allen, he's becoming one of my favorite Commanders because the dude is unafraid to say the unvarnished truth. And I'm so proud that you got somebody in the locker room like him that will give it to you raw and straight. And I disagree with nothing he has said about the team. Not last week and not today, and not this week. He's on point. He's right. You mentioned, of course, the Patriots being 2-7. The Commanders improved to 4-5, and that actually helps them out because, well, we'll talk about a game a little later that may have helped their cause to extend their play past January the 7th.
I hope so, because January 7th is my birthday. That'd be a cool birthday present if I could get that.
That would be a cool birthday present. Well, down to New Orleans as the Saints and the Bears did battle. The Bears and the Saints switched leads, but the Saints eventually beat the Bears 24-17. Derek Carr threw for 25-34, 211 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Taysom Hill joined in and threw a touchdown pass of his own. The defense of the Saints, they gave you 2 sacks, 3 INTs, and 2 fumble recoveries. The Bears offense tried to help out Tyson Bagent, 156 rushing yards, but Bagent himself, 18-30, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns. And of course, I mentioned not 1, not 2, but 3 picks. Your thoughts, sir?
Right here, it definitely was a close one, but Derek Carr right here definitely shows that he is a good person to have at quarterback over there in New Orleans. Didn't turn the ball over, 211 passing yards, 2 touchdowns right there. When you look at the way things went on both sides, the Bears were in it. Tyson Bagent was what the biggest downfall was for that team as he threw for 3 interceptions. Montez Sweat, definitely the trade that happened last week that affected the Commanders, definitely came in as a positive note for these Bears, as the defense was what was keeping them relevant in this game as they only lost by 1 touchdown. Had Bagent not thrown those 3 interceptions, we could have seen the Bears defeat the Saints in this past week, and things continue to go in a positive note for them as they would have been 3-6 instead of 2-7. Unfortunately, that was not the case, and the momentum shifted over to the Saints as they are now above 500 with a 5-4 record. Looking at what was the noise around Derek Carr and stuff going on weeks ago, I'm happy to see that they were able to pick some things up and get this win. Chris Olave with that reception touchdown, 6 of 46 receiving, definitely helped that as well. I just hope that they can keep this momentum going forward in a positive light in the season as we're a little over halfway through.
Yeah, we are. And the Saints defense, I got to give them a lot of credit. The Saints offense has not been clicking. And to be completely honest, they really weren't clicking Sunday, but that defense keeps coming through, keeps coming up with plays, and keeps keeping the Saints in games. And they kept them in this game, and the offense did push through. And along with the 5-4 record they have, they now are in sole possession of first place in the NFC South, thanks to that victory and the Vikings victory in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And Mickey, you might want to turn away right now. The Seahawks Ravens ladies and gentlemen, in a triple bowling shoe ugly game, the Ravens shellacked the Seahawks 37-3. There isn't anything to report about the Seahawks other than Geno Smith's hair being as wild as his play on the field. The Ravens offense gave you not 198, but 298 rushing yards, with Keaton Mitchell leading the way, 9 carries, 138 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. Lamar Jackson, he gave you 10 more carries as for 60 yards himself, but he was a pedestrian, 21-26, 187 yards, and a lost fumble. But the Ravens defense is not to be outdone. 4 sacks, an INT, and a fumble recovery. Your thoughts on this blowout victory by the Ravens?
Well, Mick, we have to talk about it. All that smack you were talking about the Commanders over these weeks, it's time that we lay at the smackdown on the Seattle Seahawks. And the biggest thing that comes from this, Geno Smith, 13-28, 157 yards, and 1 interception. Those numbers are not going to lead you to any relative positive genius, greatness in these words that I'm saying for teams that show positive light. It's not going to work in their favor that way. So when it comes to when you play a Ravens team led by a former MVP who's trying to get back to that form in Lamar Jackson, 21-26, 187 yards. Tyler Huntley even stepped in for a little bit too. Mm-hmm. The biggest benefactor for this team was the fact that the running attack by Keaton Mitchell, 9 carries for 138 yards. Yep. That right there was the biggest impact, I feel like, on this team outside of Mark Andrews getting back to some great numbers with 9 receptions and 80 yards, along with Patrick Queen's leadership on the defense over there for Baltimore, definitely stumped the Seattle Seahawks in this game. I don't think it was as bad as the Arizona Cardinals losing to the Browns because you still put up 3 points. It's better to get them blanked 27-0. The deficit might be worse. However, when it comes to this right here, Seattle played a great team in Baltimore who's been on the come up over the past month or so and definitely improving to where they started the season. It's good to see Baltimore trending in this direction upward, but will they remain consistent? That's the biggest question that I have going forward for Baltimore.
And that is a good question to have for them, as they now, I think they match now the Chiefs in being 7-2. The Seahawks, well, not only did they fall to 5-3, they now give up the top. I'm sorry, not the top. They give up first place in the NFC West. Now that goes to the on this bye this past week, San Francisco 49ers did not have to set foot in the field, and they won a game. Tragic. To the late game, shall we? And heck, there's no better way to speak around this. The Indianapolis Colts and the Carolina Panthers played. 27-13 was the final score. Colts defense had 4 sacks. Kenny Moore had 2 INTs that were pick sixes. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
Uncle Rico gets the victory in this game over a team that has definitely been part of the dumpster Pelican crew of the season. Yes, the Panthers are now that top dumpster Pelican right there, is they have won. Yes, see the tallest one at the front over to the right of the second place dumpster Pelican? That's the Carolina Panthers right now. You got to look at them. They are shined up right for the worst team in the NFL at this point. Even though you got the Arizona Cardinals right there, I still give it to the Carolina Panthers just because of how overhyped they were in this past offseason. Bringing in Frank Reich, the quarterback guru. Yeah, we saw what he did in Indianapolis, and we saw what his former team, led by Uncle Rico, did for this team in this past week. Bryce Young, 3 interceptions. Yes, he should be the 4th dumpster Pelican back there just by himself. A whole team of dumpster Pelicans and him by himself as the number 4 dumpster Pelican. The overhyped Bryce Young, 3 interceptions. Yes, number 4 to number 1 to number 1 to number 4. That is your dumpster Pelicans right there in how this team was affected in this past week when you play the Indianapolis Colts for my dumpster Pelican take of the week.
Oh my gosh, they were horrible. Oh my gosh, the Panthers didn't even deserve to be on the field. Now, okay, let me take off the analyst hat, put on my Van hat for a second. Where was this team when the Texans played them? Okay. Now back to the analyst hat. The Panthers better find a way to protect Bryce Young because I got a chance to see Derek Carr up close and personal. And David Carr, up close and personal. And after his rookie season, he was no good. I mean, he didn't trust a line, and he had better lines than he did in his rookie season. He didn't trust a line as far as he could throw. And when I mean that, I literally mean as far as he could throw, because he only threw 5-yard passes and 5-yard outs and 5-yard flats and screens. He barely threw the ball past the line of scrimmage 10 yards or 15 yards downfield, because he just simply didn't trust the line. 3-step drops and get the ball out of his hand. And unfortunately with Bryce Young, they're getting there. And he's about to get there, because that line is atrocious. Oh my gosh. Seriously, I really do mean this. Poor Bryce Young. You got to protect him. Good Lord. So the Panthers dropped to 1-7. The Colts, they improved to 4-5. Their offense was abysmal too, but hey, they at least got the win. That's all that really matters.
It looks like this team gave you a case of the Gips for a second.
Yes, they did. Guilty as charged. Lord. Raiders hosted the Giants 30-6. All right, I'll be a little more animated. Antonio Pierce, who's now the interim head coach, replaces a whole slew of people, one of a whole slew of people there with bowl cut. He led the way. Josh Jacobs led the way in the scoring. 2 touchdowns on 98 yards and 26 carries. Aiden O'Connell, he made another start. Actually, this was his first good game. 16-25, 209 yards. The Raiders defense, I'll skip that for a second. For the losing cause, Tommy, don't call me Tony DeVito. 15-20, 175 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Saquon Barkley gave you 16 carries and 90 yards, 3 more receptions for 23 receiving yards. But the Raiders defense, they basically were the stars of the show. 2 INTs and 8 sacks. Once again. East team that has a porous offensive line. Your thoughts, sir? Okay. Well, then let me see if I can do it justice. All right. Let me talk to you.
I don't know how that happened. I'm back. Okay. When you have a mouse and you click the wrong button, sometimes you got these little 2 side buttons right here. And me, as one of the IT wizards, should know how this should happen and in fact be on out. But what I can say is it's probably my karma for calling that kid Tony DeVito last week when I look at what's going on right here in this game for the New York Giants. 175 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions was definitely a big part of the downfall of this team right here. Is the Raiders won 30-6 when it comes to Tommy DeVito, the long-distant relative of Danny DeVito's numbers. But the biggest impact on this game was Daniel Jones getting knocked out. Also, for 2, it could be for the rest of the season and could be no longer in New York for Daniel Jones, as he has been getting banged up all year, tries to come back maybe a week or 2 too soon and re-injures himself and is now out for the entire year. But we'll get back to that here in a little bit. When it comes to the Raiders stepping up, Aiden O'Connell did a good job by not turning the ball over. 16-25, 209 yards. Josh Jacobs leading the way on the rushing attack with 98 yards, but it took 26 carries to do so, averaging just under 4 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Was a big part of the production, but he's going to have to improve that if they're going to get better as the season rolls on in Las Vegas. Trey Tucker led the way with the receiving. Devontae Adams only 4 receptions, 34 yards. For them to get the win in the way that they did with as little production out of him definitely speaks volumes to how good this team is. And they just needed to get Josh McDummy on out of there in order to get the things taken care of and go in a positive direction. Antonio Pierce, the former Super Bowl winning player from the New York Giants, gets the win over his old team right here in his first in his head coaching debut. So definitely great for AP right here. Happy to see him do what Jeff Saturday could not do last year on a better team and in a better situation like this team here with the Raiders.
Yeah. Shout out to Antonio Pierce. And the guy basically just, after he played, he hustled his way through the coaching ranks. And now here he is. He now gets a chance to run the team. So I'm happy for him. And it looks like the players love being coached by him. And I'm like, okay. I mean, because I saw a difference in the play on the field and then in the locker room afterwards. I'm like, yeah, I actually like playing for him. As for Brian Daboll, for the Giants and playing for him, well, you already know. He's probably the pile underneath the dumpster Pelicans right now. Good Lord. So the Giants, they dropped to 2-6. The Raiders can prove 4-5, and they still have a shot at the playoffs. Let's see what happens with what they do going forward, but they may have a fighting chance thanks to Bowl Cut getting out of the way. Or did he? Now, this would be the game of the week, but it fell just a little bit short. Just like the Cowboys did in their game in South Philly against the Eagles, they were 5 yards short and they were 5 points short as they fell to the divisional rivals 28-23. Jalen Hurts of the winning team, 17-23, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then 10 more carries for further 6 yards and a rushing touchdown, of course, off with the tush push or the brotherly shove, and a gimpy, gutsy performance to boot as his left knee got tweaked again. The Eagles defense gave you 5 sacks and putting number 4 of the Cowboys to the ground. And speaking of number 4, Dak Prescott, who said that, who I heard Cowboys fans said that he outplayed Jalen Hurts, 29-45, 375 yards. I'm sorry, 374 yards and 3 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb, who people were talking about A.J. Brown being the stud wide receiver, he came to play. 11 receptions, 192 yards. Your thoughts in this game, sir?
I wouldn't say Jalen Carter got outplayed, but he did have that one big penalty there towards the end of the game that almost cost the Eagles the game. Because Dak Prescott definitely outplayed Jalen Hurts for the first time in their matchups that they had here. So look at this situation right here for this team. The Cowboys are definitely in the right direction as far as how they're trending. However, they've got to get better when it comes to those penalties because they got down to the 6-yard line.
They got down to the Eagle 6.
And had all of those penalties that pushed them back to where, they were in field goal range, but it was a 5-point game. So it wouldn't have made any difference. So when you have that one last play trying to get it in the end zone and you are so far back, 5 times the amount of yards back than what you would have been, definitely not a great situation for success for that team. And that's why they lost to the Eagles. But if they get to this point and they know that they were only 6 yards away from potentially beating the defending NFC champions, things are looking good for the Dallas Cowboys. They just have to hone up on their mistakes that they have made so far in this year. But there's a reason why they're in second and not first right now for the NFC East. And this is part of that reason. They've got to clean up those penalties.
All right. So why are the Cowboys 5-3?
Let me talk to you.
So the very last drive, the Cowboys received a pass interference penalty, a roughing the passer penalty, and an encroachment penalty to get the ball within 6 yards of the end zone. They were on the Eagles 6, 1st and 5. And then they proceed to give you a false start. Then they had to delay a game, and sandwiched in between those 2 penalties, Dak Prescott decides to get sacked for 11-yard loss.
That's terrible.
Now, like you said, like my partner said, that would have put if they they had to kick they had to go for a touchdown, they could kick a field goal. So the touchdown that they scored in the previous drive to put them within 5 because they were trailing 28-17. They go for the 2-point conversion. Dak Prescott looks like he broke the plane, but his foot stepped out of bounds before he reached over and crossed the plane with the football.
That's terrible.
That negated the field goal opportunity. Oh, and then a drive before that, they got down to within the Eagles 5, 4th and goal. They throw an out, and oh God, Shoemaker has the knee hit the ground, and the ball didn't cross the plane.
That's terrible.
So right there, that is 16 possible points off the board. And I said, as a Cowboys fan, the Eagles gift wrapped you that game, and you blew it. And Cowboys should be ashamed of themselves. And you want to know why people are saying, well, the Cowboys can't really make the Super Bowl because they just simply blow games like these? Sunday evening is exactly why. And I'm not even a Cowboys fan, but how they executed down the stretch was very frustrating to me. The defense, though, down the stretch, they executed flawlessly. They executed with urgency. That offense is on the hand, not even close. All right, done with my soapbox. So the Cowboys, they dropped to 5-3, where they joined the San Francisco 49ers. And they fall behind the Detroit Lions, who are 6-2. The Eagles, on the other hand, they improved to 8-1, and they still, even Sunday, have not played their best game yet this year. That should be scary, but what might be scarier, at KC, at home against, I'm trying to think if I can get the schedule right. Let me see. At KC, at home against the Bills, and then the 49ers. Then they go to Arlington to play the Cowboys again, and then they go to Seattle. After the bye that the 49ers, the Eagles have this week, that is their next slate of games. So I know, Cowboys fan, I'm saying, so you're saying there's a chance? Yes. You just got to take care of the chances that you're given and not squander them like your team did this past Sunday. In a heartwarming return for Damar Hamlin to Cincinnati, the Bills played the Bengals. The moment was bigger than the game because basically the Bengals controlled it. Just to be completely honest. The Bengals, they beat the Bills 24-18. The game wasn't even that close. As Joe Burrow just had his way with the Bills defense. 31-44, 348 yards, 2 touchdowns. He could have done whatever he wanted in the pocket. Anything he wanted in the pocket. T. Higgins, 8 receptions, 110 yards. He did his thing, stepping up for Jamar Chase, who normally would be the guy. But just had a rough outing, but that's okay. T picked him up. For the losing Bills, Josh Allen, 28-38, 250 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. And Stephon Diggs, decent. 6 receptions, 86 yards, a touchdown, and a 2-point conversion reception. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
You know, the only thing that would have made it better for the Bills, not besides a victory, would be if Damar Hamlin would have been active. Right. He's only been active for one game this year. But for him to even be back is still a miracle in comparison to what we saw last year when these two teams met during the regular season. So right here, for these Bengals to now be on a 4-game winning streak based on how they started this year. When they started out 1-3, definitely looking a lot better for them as Joe Burrow throws for 2 touchdowns, 348 yards, and humbles Josh Allen, who his 1 interception that he had definitely was a difference maker in this game because you had great production from Stephon Diggs. Yep. Josh Allen definitely needs to get a little bit more help from his running backs as he cannot continue to be the leading rusher for that team. It's not going to end well as he will take one too many hits for one, but they'll definitely be catching on as teams like the Bengals have to be able to contain him when he is the leading part of that running attack. So right here, good on the Bengals to extend their winning streak at 4 games. But you know what, Cole? How many teams do we see go on a 4-game winning streak and are still in last place in their division? That just goes to show how tough this division is in the AFC North when you have the Ravens at 7-2, the Steelers at 5-3, and the Browns, who are tied with the Bengals for last and 5-3. We've already talked about those aforementioned teams, so I figured it'd be a good time to bring that stat out. But the season's not over. The Bengals still have 9 more games to play, so we'll see how things end for them. But it's definitely looking good at this point of the year for them to turn it around.
I agree. What I like for the Bengals going forward, because yes, they really are officially in last place because, well, they already have lost to the good Lord, they already lost to the Ravens and they've already lost to the Browns. So those 2 L's did not bode well for them. And the Steelers, of course, they beat the Browns and they beat the Ravens. So the Bengals are in last place in the AFC North. However, they still play all of their divisional rivals, and they still have to play the Steelers twice. So that bodes well for them, and they're getting their gears rolling. They're 5-3. The Bills, who had a golden opportunity, because if they were to be 6-3, they would take over first place in AFC East because of their 48-20 victory over the Dolphins. They did not capitalize, and they did not seem as though they were in this game. And it was not that they probably were feeling emotionally drained because of, well, we were trapped in that time 10 months before. No, they just simply did not appear on Paycor Stadium's field. I don't understand this team. I don't understand the Bills. They have the talent, but for some reason they just can't put it together. And this 5-4 is disappointing to me for them. Hopefully they can get it together. And I agree with you. It starts with that running offense. They need to have somebody besides Josh Allen lead the way for them in the running game.
I mean, James Cook, 6 carries, 20 yards, Cole.
Won't cut.
That's your top running back right there. Exactly. And you're lucky to only lose by 6 points when you have those type of stats, put up there. So, like you said, definitely to compliment what I said, they've got to get things better with that running game if they have any chance of making the playoffs or going on any type of run in this season.
Agreed. 100% agreed. Wonderful points. Well, that's why I love being with my partner. He knows his football. Goodness. Monday night game. It surely should not have been. The Chargers go to the Meadowlands to play the Jets. 27-6, the final score. And literally, the game wasn't that close. Justin Herbert, 16-30, 136 yards. His performance. Winning team. The Chargers defense were the stars of this show. 8 sacks and 3 fumble recoveries. Khalil Mack with 2 sacks. Joey Bosa with 2.5 sacks. And Tuli Puolotu with 2 sacks of his own. But the Jets offense. Zach Wilson, 33 of 49, 263 yards, 2 lost fumbles. Jets defense gave you 5 sacks in the game. Just say your eulogy in this game, because the Jets were just horrible in this one.
Basically, yes. But, looking at the Chargers, though, in their offense, I want to break down a couple things right here when it comes to that offense. The biggest part of the Chargers offense, Austin Eckler had those 2 rushing touchdowns.
Right.
But Keenan Allen, 8 receptions, 77 yards, averaging over 9.5 yards per reception. When you look at that, outside of what I just said for Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert was 8 of 22 for 59 yards. Let that sink in. That's terrible. Not many teams can get a victory that decisively, winning 27-6 when you have a quarterback that throws for that outside of their one receiver I just mentioned. being Keenan Allen. For the Jets, you had Zach Wilson posting decent numbers, but they couldn't produce first downs. Like they were going 3 and out or failing to convert on fourth downs, penalties, whatever the case may be. There's a reason why I had a feeling this was going to happen last night, and that's why, even though I've been battling this cold for the past couple of days, I decided to push back Commander's Gridiron Report to about 8:30 last night and just record the start of the game and catch up on it and fast forward through commercials leading through halftime, because I had a feeling this game was going to be ugly. And to start the game out, the Chargers were up 14-0, and they did it in the most boring of ways. So looking at that game, I'm glad that I got the opportunity to do what I did yesterday, considering the circumstances that weren't the greatest. But doing what I did, I feel pretty good today. Looking forward to knocking this Tuesday out. But when it comes to the Jets, I know that they are definitely feeling the hangover this morning based on the fact that Zach Wilson didn't do horrible at his position yesterday, but the rest of the team around him, including that defense has been getting praised all season long and has been the ones who have kept them in these games of why they were 4-3 coming into this week, are the reason why they have now dropped to 500 after this game.
Yeah. And the Chargers with this game improved to 500. Both teams are at 4-4. And now in the all-important tiebreaker, if the two teams were to battle for a 7th seed, well, the Jets would need the Chargers to have a less record than them. Ryan, who, of course, is a Jets fan, he says, we, and he mentions we as in the Jets, have 300-pound turnstiles on this offensive line again. And he also says the Jets are the only NFL team in the Super Bowl era. And, of course, that is going back to almost 60 years, 57 to be exact, to have their defense collect 5 sacks, hold the opponent under 200 yards, and not allow any 25-plus yard plays, yet still lose the game by over 20 points. Yes, that is a special kind of... Sorry, Ryan, you were correct. They are. Or at least Monday night. I'm not saying the team is. Monday night, they were dumpster Pelican worthy. But you still have hope. At least the AFC East is still up for grabs. I mean, just get over 500. You might have a chance to beat the Dolphins. Right, in a double dose of upset of the week, we actually had a dumpster Pelican game between the Rams and the Packers, and on the not so frozen tundra of Lambeau Hill, the Packers just simply bored everybody to pieces in beating down the Rams 20-3. Jordan Love probably had his best performance since week 1, 20 of 26, 228 yards and a touchdown. The Packers offense gave you 184 rushing yards. That is the best performance on the rushing game this year so far from them. The Rams defense did show up, 4 sacks. Byron Young gave you 2 of them, and 2 fumble recoveries. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
Shout out before I give my take. Shout out to Justin Maltz over there, Pro Sports Fans.
Yes.
Just dropping the comment about how about them birds. Well, how about them birds? If it wasn't for those penalties for the Cowboys, it would have been Weed and Boys talking about what was going on today for that team in that game. But back to our take right here for this upset of the week. When it comes to the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love, 20 of 26, 228 yards. The Packers offense, like you said, 148 rushing yards. Now, when you look at these two teams, the Rams definitely have been playing like dumpster Pelicans this season. Looking at what they have produced for their team right there, you cannot get excited as they are 3-6 and now on a 3-game losing streak for their division. It's not looking good. You cannot be excited at all if you are a Rams fan looking at your team and looking how things are going. For the Packers, it was about time that they got a win because it wasn't looking good for them either in the post-Aaron Rodgers era. Brett Rippon steps in, the nephew of the Commanders' former MVP, Super Bowl MVP quarterback, Mark Rippon, but doesn't have that same type of swagger in this game is he goes 13 to 28 for 130 yards and 1 interception. So this Rams team is far removed from that Super Bowl championship team that we saw a few years ago, and it's not looking like they're going to get anywhere close to that relevance anytime soon. Same for the Packers as far as Aaron Rodgers time. Jordan Love is not Aaron Rodgers, but it's still very early in his career. Let's not throw it out there too soon. But I have to agree, this has to be the upset of the week right here for Week 10.
Yeah.
Week 9, my apologies.
Yeah. Reason being, the Rams actually were favored in this game. They were a road favorite, and they just simply did not show up. And it was an embarrassment for them, in my opinion. But partner actually said it correct. The Rams dropped to 3-6. The Packers improved to 3-5. Once again, that game, of course, a double daily, I should say a double daily of upset of the weekend. The game that was not bowling shoe ugly. That is the game of this week, and that took place at NRG Stadium in Houston, where the Buccaneers and the Texans were nip and tuck throughout the whole game. And basically, the game went down as follows. With 46 seconds to go, Baker Mayfield threw a touchdown pass to a second touchdown pass to Cade Otto that put the Buccaneers up 37-33. 37-33. And then CJ Stroud threw his 5th touchdown pass on the final drive of the game with 6 seconds to go, giving the Texans the 39-37 victory over the Buccaneers. And I will get to Stroud last. For the Texans, Noah Brown gave you 6 receptions, 153 yards and a touchdown. Dalton Schultz coming for the Cowboys. Now he's the Texans tight end. 10 receptions, 130 yards on the touchdown. He did have a lost fumble. Tank Dell, who also is a rookie, did well on that last drive. A key reception that led to the touchdown reception, the game-winning touchdown reception. 6 receptions, 114 yards. And as I said, the 2 big receptions at the end of that game. Baker Mayfield, a really good game for him. 21-30, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans, he's a hometown guy. He's a Houston guy. Comes home and does pretty well. 4 receptions, 87 yards, and a fumble recovery that saved their last drive for them to get that touchdown to go ahead with 46 seconds to go. And the Bucs defense, solid for some stretches. 3 sacks and a fumble recovery. But the star of the game, CJ Stroud, 30 of 42, 470 yards, which is a rookie in a single season game in NFL history. And again, 5 touchdowns with the game-winning touchdown pass with 6 seconds to go. Your thoughts on this one, sir?
You know, it's awesome to see for both of our teams that we've got some good quarterback play coming from that position right there. And for the Houston Texans, when you have CJ Stroud throwing for 5 touchdowns, I mean, already through 9 games, he's got 14 passing touchdowns, only 1 interception. That is awesome for any quarterback, let alone a rookie. For a rookie to do that, especially on the fact that he's thrown for 2,270 yards, averaging 8 yards per throw. I mean, these are not rookie-like numbers. These are MVP-type, veteran-type numbers that we're seeing from CJ Stroud. Running away, especially with the Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. So when it comes to this right here, you have to be excited if you are a fan of the Texans or just a fan of football in general, as the Texans improved to 4-4. Baker Mayfield does not deserve to be called Bunker Stayfield this week, as he was 21-30 for 265 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
But even though those are great numbers, especially for him, it is nothing in comparison to CJ Stroud's 30 of 42 for 470 yards and 5 touchdowns. The biggest thing that the Houston Texans need to work on here is something we talk about with several other teams as well, is that running game. Devin Singletary, 13 carries for 26 yards as the leading rusher. That's the reason why you only won by 2 points. Had you established the running game earlier, you would have been able to have a little bit more of a gap in between the score. Wouldn't have to score as much for one. Would have been able to run more time off the clock, and things would have definitely gone in a little bit easier fashion for you. But a win's a win. You still got to this point. You are now at 500. definitely a happy day yesterday for Houston Texans fans and players of alike, especially on this Tuesday as well.
Yes, and their starting running back Dameon Pierce was ruled out for the game too. And you basically touched on exactly my thought. Yeah, it's wonderful that CJ Stroud threw for that many yards. But what I want to have him throw for that many yards, not because he's a rookie, but because it's an NFL quarterback, and it means you have him drop back that many times. It means it's one more opportunity for the defense to put your guy on the turf and probably put him out of the game. That running game is essential and important. Unfortunately, they did not have it, but thankfully they didn't need it. But going forward, they will. The Buccaneers, unfortunately, with this hard charging but unfortunate loss for them, they dropped to 3-5. Meanwhile, the Texans, they improved to 4-4. As well, it looks good actually for the Texans. It looks like they may have turned the corner. I'm not saying that they're a playoff contender. I'm not saying that they are a team that's ready to go right now. But this is the best they have looked in 4 years, and all I can do is just hope for them to be like this and just fight every game that they're in. Well, that completes the game of the week, and it also completes the opening drive. Right back with the Gridiron Scoop.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Quick!
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ready to hang with some fellas who know football? Let's ride. LC Muscles 28.
I think they're the most overrated defense in the league.
Steel Sermon.
We did not trail for a single second.
Tiny Tim.
McCarthy is a bonehead.
A Pizzle 90.
I'm going with my boys. Fins up, baby!
Get ready for the Four Horsemen of Peckham's. Every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on YouTube. Poppy J.
You got the option to cry for the government. You got the option to protest. You got the option to keep buying. But this is also an option.
Wise El Jefe.
We're the first tech geeks. We're the first gamers. We're the first everything. Everything. Like Gen X's, we are the ones.
BS3 Network proudly presents the crew from the New York boroughs who never wants that smoke. Nah, they want that fire. Poppy J and Wise El Jefe. Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham, my man D. Willie. I am Cole Johnson. And back to the chat we go. And yeah, Ryan, only the Jets. I feel for you because you actually have a team that has talent. And I'm not sure they have, in my opinion, I'm not sure they have the coaching to get that talent where they needs to go. And I think it's the coaching and some of the front office moves too. Some have been good, some have been wonky. And I just feel for you, man. As a Jets fan, I feel for you. From the Jets fan to a Giants fan, Stuck in My Mind podcast, aka Wise El Jefe, says, "Good morning, my brothers," or "Hello, my brothers." And he says, hello in the chat. And I agree with you, my man. Look, a W is a W at the end of the day. You're correct. And yeah, with my Texans, that's what I can say. They didn't have the running game, but you know what? They scored 2 more points than their opponent, and that's all you can ask for. And it's the greetings passed along in the chat from one to another. We're just so happy that we're here. Thank you to PSF. We definitely enjoyed that platform as well. Thank you for tuning in to wherever you are tuning in. We appreciate you. We appreciate you liking and sharing and commenting, and keep the comments coming, and keep everything coming. The love too, because we love it, we need it, and we feed off of it because of you. And now it's time for the Gridiron Scoop. They actually had a chance to tie the game on Sunday in Germany, and the game on the line was right there on an international stage, but Tua Tagovailoa just simply couldn't manage an errant snap from Connor Williams, the center of the team. The football sailed behind him, which provided the third L of the year. And unfortunately for them, it's the third L against the third team that has played above 500 for the season. I feel for him. Mike McDaniel, I'm sorry, the head coach of the Dolphins, he had this to say about the game and the ending of it Sunday. Quote, "We knew going into the game if we lose what the narrative will be, and that's fair. We shouldn't feel entitled to high opinions from the masses. We have to earn that." Close quote. Now, the opinion that he was talking about was simple. They have played well against teams below 500, but they have been 0 for 3 against teams above it. So my question to you is, can it be we expected too much too soon out of the 2023 Dolphins?
Yes, because it's just like the stats you just rattled off. When they are 0-3 against teams above 500, it's not looking good for this Dolphins team. Now, there's still plenty of season left for them to turn things around. They are in first in their division. In this division, the way the production is for the other three teams, it's tailored for them to get the division championship this season. But we've seen this in teams of the past have easier roads to winning records and getting to the road to the playoffs, and then get to the playoffs and lose decisively in that first game that they play in the playoffs, in ending the run of that season. So, yes, the narrative has definitely been written that this team can only win against losing teams, and they've got another half of the season right now, to prove that wrong. So, I can't get so upset. You just played against the defending Super Bowl champions, and you only lost by a touchdown. So it's not like you were decisively beaten like the Ravens winning or, you know, the Browns winning this past weekend. You can't get but that upset about it. But I do have to agree with the question at hand. And until they prove it otherwise, that's going to be the narrative that's on this team right now.
And I hate to say it this way, it's well earned. And it's unfortunate because I actually like the Dolphins. I like the makeup of the team. I think the defense, I think it could be just a smidge better. I mean, look, you hold the Chiefs to 14 points defensively because the other 7 was a fumble recovery that was a return for a touchdown. You hold a powerful offense like the Chiefs to 14 points. That's a really good defense, and they do have good players on that side of the ball. But the style of play on offense, I think, hurts that defense a bit. So, I think you have that, and I think if a team plays you physical, if a team plays the Dolphins physical, forget it. And I think we have now seen it 3 different times. The Bills played them physical and they lost. The Eagles played them physical and they lost. And the Chiefs, they played them a little more physical than they normally would play, and again, they come up with an L. But yes, it's still a lot of season left. 6-3. We can be woe is me, but they still do lead the AFC East. And you mentioned it, the last game of the year at home against the Bills. Oh my, if this isn't the rich get richer, the 49ers got some needed help for their struggling defense, acquiring edge rusher Chase Young from the Commanders for a third-round draft pick. Now, the teams reached a deal just before the trade deadline, with the 49ers sending the Commanders the compensatory pick they were set to receive at the end of the third round for losing Ryan Cawthon to the Titans as general manager, DeMeco Ryans to Houston. I'm sorry, as general manager, and DeMeco Ryans to Houston as head coach last offseason. Young will team up with his former Ohio State teammate Nick Bosa to give the 49ers a formidable edge rushing duo and provide a needed boost for a team now embroiled in a 3-game losing streak. Now, my question to you, sir, is the following. Will this move help the 49ers' porous run defense?
If Chase Young stays healthy, yes. And this situation right here is more beneficial for him than it is for Montez Sweat, who went to Chicago, not only for the 49ers being a better team, but you got traded during a bye week. So you have an extra week to learn the system, even though you're only going to be able to pick up so much in 10, 11 days before your first game. But at least here, you get a little bit more time to study the playbook, get to know your personnel around you, get reacclimated with, of course, Nick Bosa, your former teammate. But if you can stay healthy, which has been a big question mark on Chase Young during his tenure in Washington, then yes, I feel like it can definitely help that run defense.
And you hit the point for me that I think is the biggest key. Health has been an issue for him, but I will say this in the 49ers' favor. Health was a big issue for Christian McCaffrey coming into the trade deadline last year. And he seemed to have found the fountain of youth and the fountain of health because he's had little issues with health. Now he's had a hip flexor problem as of late, but he hasn't missed a game since he has been a 49er. Will that be true for Chase Young? We don't know, but he did miss a full season and most of another season, and he's coming back off of that this season. So I don't know. But if so, it'll be great to see. And then it's unfortunate, and I'm saying this to my Commander brother, it's unfortunate that you might see Chase Young perform at a high level on another team. But yeah, it's painful to see that happen. But hopefully he can rebound.
Well, we're going to see it because he's in a contract status, because after this year, he's playing for a contract pretty much, so, and it usually always, and 9 times out of 10, it usually elevates the play out of the player in question. So it's unfortunate for the Commanders, but it's business. We see this all the time in the NFL. There's 32 teams, 32 different examples of how we could have seen this go, but at least it's not within the division. At least we don't have to face him again this year unless they go on a playoff run and meet each other in the playoffs. But it's too early to determine that at this case. I'm just happy that he at least went to a chance to a team where he gets the chance to potentially chase a championship.
Unfortunately, that's not the case for one Montez Sweat, who he's now off the Commanders. He's now with the Bears. But you did get a 2nd-round draft pick in return. But gosh, I feel for Montez Sweat because that's one of my dudes on formerly of the Commanders. Oh my gosh!
I mean, you hit it on the head with the 2nd-round draft pick. I mean, they kind of got robbed with Chase Young, but I think it's because the Commanders held out too long, and the 49ers just played the business game and said, "Well, either take it or leave it." And the Commanders were at the point to where they've got a lot of draft capital now for 2024. And it's going to look really good in the draft as long as they make the right decisions for it. They're going to have some interesting draft picks this upcoming offseason. And part of the Montez Sweat and Chase Young moves definitely will help that situation come into fruition.
Yeah, definitely will. And if you want more on all things Washington Commanders, tune into my boys program, the GRIDIRON Report, every Monday, 3:05 Eastern, 2:05 Central, on the Sotoba Media YouTube channel. He knows his Commander stuff. So whenever I talk anything Commanders, I know I'm in great hands with him because he knows his stuff. Man, I enjoy that. Thing that I enjoy is Damar Hamlin, the safety of the Bills, went back to Cincinnati, and he is honoring the medical staff of Cincinnati that helped save his life by establishing a scholarship for the youth of that city. Now, he talked about the dinner that he had with the staff that saved his life, and it was the following quote: "Last night I had dinner with my heroes, 10 of the UC medical staff that helped save my life. I surprised them with a scholarship named after each of them that will support youth in Cincy to chase their dreams. Wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them." Close quote. The only thing I'd ask is this: what is the lesson we should learn regarding Damar Hamlin's situation?
Just how to be appreciative when good things happen to you. How to be humble, and especially how to find a way to give back. There's different ways and different levels that we can do it. With the NFL and him being a player in the NFL, he has got more things at his service, at his disposal. More perks that he can utilize, especially having a better income, but different ways to give back in a situation like this. I mean, if this happened to you or I, we wouldn't be able to afford the type of things to be able to give back to all the first responders that would give to us if this were to us to, this happened to us. But basically, the one thing that I can take from the Damar Hamlin situation is just how to truly appreciate when good things happen, or a life-changing event, a life lesson, whatever the case may be. I, within the past year, have dealt with something similar to that. And if, I guess the Damar Hamlin situation in a way can be somewhat inspirational to how I've handled it, because, you can be a part of situations that are bad, or negative causes, but it's how you react to it that'll definitely showcase your character. And Damar Hamlin's character is not in question here. Definitely is an upstanding human being. For him to even be active for one game this year, only though it's only been one game, is definitely miraculous. It goes to it attributes to the awareness and the actual first responding of those first responders to him in his situation, which is why he's still here, still breathing, and has made the progress that he's made today.
Yeah. He has fast become one of my favorite NFL players today. And the thing I love about him is this dude had a huge heart before his tragedy, before that, and before his cardiac arrest. I mean, he had a giving heart even then. And the fact that this guy, he's not even 25 yet, and he already is showing a compassionate heart for so many people. Yeah. And the fact that he has given us that understanding of, look, if the ticker is ticking, do everything you can to make your life enjoyable. Man, I platitudes I run out of when it comes to Damar Hamlin, and it's been that way for the last 10 months. I cannot compliment this guy enough, and I'm so glad that we actually have him as an example on this planet. So, Damar, thank you, brother, and what a wonderful gesture to have scholarships named after the people who saved your life, so that they could actually pay it forward to those in the youth who probably, with the scholarship of yours in their name and honor, you can help save their lives too. Wow. That is an awesome, awesome example. Thank you, Damar, for giving us an understanding that humanity does exist and is alive and well.
Total football talk.
Oh, yeah. When you hear that dog growl, you know we're calling out for our dogs. So where are our dogs at? Welcome to Grand Champ, where we award the Dog of the Week for Week 9 of the NFL season. And to award his Dog of the Week, or Grand Champ, here's Drew.
There's many different ways that I can go about this. And this one's tough because I really want to give it to Sam Howell, but I don't feel like his production was enough for me to do that. And I'm not ready to hear that I'm a homer for my pick. Okay. And even though this person had worse numbers than him, I've got 2 dogs of the week. I'm going to start with my second dog of the week, and that being Josh Dobbs. For him to come in like he did in less than a week and help lead the Vikings to a victory, and a decisive victory, 31-28 over the Falcons with 2 passing touchdowns. I have to give it to him as my second dog of the week. But my number 1 dog of the week, and I can't believe I'm going to give it to this player right here. And I think it's going to be the first time I've given this to a player on a losing team. But I have to, because of the fact of, if it wasn't for the penalties, this team would have won this game. I have to give it to Dakota Rain Prescott right here. Dak Prescott, 29-44, 374 passing yards for 3 touchdowns. There's one other person that I would pick, but I have a feeling that Cole's going to pick him. So that's why I didn't want to pick him for my dog of the week. And I had the 2 being Josh Dobbs for the second and Dak Prescott for the first. But if it wasn't for those penalties, the Cowboys would have won that game. Dak Prescott definitely proved to be an elite quarterback in this game and actually outplayed Jalen Hurts for once in their matchups as they've had since Jalen Hurts has been in the league. That's who I got to give as my dog of the week.
Oh, Wise says, look, go on and be a homer.
No. And I was still right the first 6 weeks of the season.
Oh, my. How did I know you were going to throw that jab in there? Lord, I know I'm going to see a jab in return from Wise. Goodness gracious.
It's all in the name of fun.
Not Como. Oh, my gosh. Really? He says, Dak Prescott.
Dakota Rain Prescott, in the words of Kyle Nash.
Oh, Lord. So, yeah, I had a feeling that, in fact, I actually thought you were going to say exactly what you actually said, because I figured you would allow me to do the homer thing, but it's not a homer thing. It's just, how could you not? But I figured you would actually sort of cede the floor for me to pick him. So yeah, I definitely will. Look, my dog of the week, the grand champ to me, definitely is CJ Stroud. And it's more than just the 470 yards of passing, which of course is a rookie record for a single game in the air, and 5 touchdowns with no picks. It is the fact that this guy, through the first 8 games, has only thrown 1 interception. 1. A rookie. He's only played 8 games and he's only thrown 1 pick. And another thing, he is shattering the myth now of, well, Ohio State quarterbacks, when they come to NFL, they just go. Well, it looks like CJ Stroud is looking to be like the first to say, I'm wrecking shop here. And yes, a lot of people have actually said the same thing, even about Justin Fields, who is the predecessor, the most recent predecessor to Stroud. And Stroud was hearing it when he was in Ohio State. People were saying even then, well, he's not going to be an NFL quarterback. Look at the school he's playing for. And now he is showing people up, and he is showing out. I'm so happy for this guy. And I'm actually so happy for the Texans because I think they needed to have something go right in the quarterback department. Because, I mean, if it wasn't going to be CJ Stroud, you already know who it was going to be, who would still be playing for the Texans. Oh yeah, girl. They still ain't caught on to my scheme. Thank you, baby. Yeah, sit it on down, girl. Oh yeah, see, I'm just ruling Houston. Yeah, I just get a hole like you to just sit there and watch me just go to town on my joystick. These young whippersnappers said, forget this. Look, actually, I'm glad that Houston doesn't have to deal with Deshaun Watson and all of whatever he does, because I think now they can turn the page, and CJ Stroud gives them the ability to turn the page comfortably and successfully. Now, is he going to play the next 9 games like he has the first 8? We'll see. But from what I'm seeing in the first 8 games, this dude is something special. Thank you, CJ, for making me want to root in the Texans again. You make me proud. We'll be right back.
Coming up next, the featured attractions. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated, creating content magic in the real world.
Yeah. But hey, that was last year. And what did he was out.
Right. And now he's in.
But he's been out for an entire year. It's not, you can't think he's going to make the same impact that he did before he was suspended.
I'm telling you, he won't have to.
What?
See how
Is he going to keep his phone down and not make bets? Come on, man.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. $sign D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
If you're looking for a sports program that gives you the flavor.
Washington Commanders? Really?
This whole thing stinks to high heaven.
That pulls no punches.
Thuggish act by a thuggish actor.
That gives you some humor.
Praise everything LeBron does and never criticize it.
If you want a show that gives you good times, then this is that show. BS3 Network proudly presents.
I am Cole Johnson, and welcome to
Cole Sports with a Z. Every Friday on Patreon, and every Saturday on YouTube, Spreaker, and all other outlets.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson, and we love the love. We love the love. My man Wise, he says, look, my runt of the litter is Tony DeVito. So even he likes Tony and not referencing Tommy.
Old Tony, that will definitely live on
Yes,
for
it
as
will.
long as he is an NFL quarterback for the Giants.
Yes, it's unfortunate, but yes, it is. Oh, and I think we were talking about the 49ers. Snowman says way too long. Yeah, I keep the comments coming. Well, we enjoy the love. We enjoy all of you here. And now in this next segment, join along with us as to who you think is going to be the favorites, or at least the winners of these contests. We now present to you the featured attractions for Week 10 of the 2023 NFL season. Now, all of these games will have kickoffs of 1 p.m. Eastern. All times of Eastern that we actually say on this program. All these games are 1 p.m. kickoffs. The first one being actually in the Twin Cities. between the 5-4 Saints and the 5-4 Vikings. The Saints actually are 3-point favorites. We'll start with the Saints. We talked about it earlier, about their defense basically being the side of the ball that's actually keeping this team relevant and competitive. What must the Saints do offensively to match their defensive effort?
They got to establish the run a little bit better than what they have been. Taysom Hill should not be your leading running back, especially in this past game against the Bears. 11 of 52, 4.7 yards per carry. Alvin Kamara, who is your running back, 9 carries, 26 yards, and not much outside of that. You got to get Alvin Kamara going if you want to have a chance to beat this Minnesota team, whose defense has been stepping up in cases, and they've got Josh Dobbs now, who's consistent with not turning the ball over. So right there, I feel like they've got to get this running game going early, in that being the New Orleans Saints.
Agreed. And I mean, it looks like to me they're hesitant to really ride Kamara. And I'm like, it's not from injury reasons, I don't think. And it just looks like the offense is just stuck in neutral. And it's just been that feeling that I've had all throughout this season. It's like, So you get Derek Carr, who's supposed to jumpstart your offense, and he provides a little boost, but not even that much of one, to where you got decent wide receivers, but you don't know it because the offense is stuck in mud. Yeah, I find it amazing. But on the other side of the ball, the Vikings, they started off 1-4. Now they've reeled off 4 straight. And they've done it until this moment without a stout running game. However, they did get 146 yards rushing in their victory against the Falcons. Another addition to their team, of course, is the quarterback Joshua Dobbs, who, as you pointed out it so eloquently, came onto the team, did not know the wide receivers' names, did not know plays in the playbook, and had to have the plays spoken to him by by the coaching staff in the game, and you wouldn't have known it by the performance on that field. Now, Jaron Hall started. Unfortunately, he is now under concussion protocol, but he might be replaced. Do you think Josh Dobbs is the answer for the Vikings moving forward?
For this season alone, yes, because you don't really have many other options. Unless you would have called the man who snaps both ankles in one play, Carson Wentz, there's no other quarterback that was really relevant enough to be the starting quarterback for this team outside of maybe Colt McCoy and, someone who has had extensive time as a starter in the league. Joshua Dobbs hasn't in those compared to those names that I brought up, but has been more consistent than the other two quarterbacks as of late. So when it comes to what he did this season prior to what he got here, he was just on a team that wasn't performing well around him. But especially coming in, being on the team for 5 days, doesn't really know but maybe a dozen plays of the playbook, and was able to pull off what he did yesterday as not only the quarterback, but as the leading rusher for the Vikings. They're not going to be able to continue to win if he's the leading rusher, but if he stays smart with the football decisions that he makes and not turn the ball over, I feel like he's the answer going forward for this season alone.
Well said and well stated. I agree with you. For Joshua Dobbs, the Vikings are his 5th team in the past calendar year. And if you wonder how he could actually come up and retain stuff real quick, well, you're dealing with a nuclear physicist. And no, I'm not saying that as a joke. That is his major from University of Tennessee. You're picking this game. Who do you see winning between the Saints and the Vikings?
Although he's a very smart individual and has been pulling off the things he's been pulling off, I don't think it's going to be that way this Sunday. I think the Saints are going to win this game. They are favored by 3. It may be a close one here, but if they can get Alvin Kamara going early and establish the run, I feel like the Saints have a really good chance of winning this game by at least 10 points.
It is funny how the Vikings have been the Saints' kryptonite for much of the last 4 decades. I mean, there's many points of times you can point to different iterations of the Saints and different iterations of the Vikings, where the Saints just fall short to them. I want to say that this will be the same case here, but no, I don't think so. I think the road favorites will take it. But I think the game's going to be close too. But yeah, I see the Vikings losing to the Saints in the Twin Cities. Again, another 1 p.m. kickoff. The Jaguars hosting the 49ers in Duval, but they're the home dogs. Another home dog. The 49ers are favored by 2.5. And yes, this is a 10 a.m. kickoff for the 49ers local time. Speaking of the team in Santa Clara, they started off hot, punctuated by the 42-10 butt whipping they gave the Cowboys, and then they decided to go on this tailspin where they have scored 17 points in each of the last 3 losses they have had. What do the 49ers need to do to snap their 3-game losing streak?
Hopefully this bye week one was definitely what they needed to get the minds reset and get back out there and get back to where they were when they won the first 5 games of the season, at least to the demeanor of how they approached each and every game. I'm thinking that what they need to do has already been done, is get that extra time off to study what their problems have been and how they can improve on it. They got Chase Young now to make a difference on that defensive side. I think as far as what they need to do is what they've already been doing, and that is what their approach has been during this bye week situation.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what they need to address with Young in tow is teams know they can be physical against them. And I think once they can actually solidify that, then I think they could take off. Unfortunately, pass rusher is great, and having the edge to worry about is strategically fine. I get that. But I think you need to have that run defense solidified more. And if they don't, that 3-game losing streak is going to grow. On the other side of the ball, the team that is wanting to be physical and wanting to run the ball, not necessarily successful all the time, is the Jaguars. They're now on a 5-game winning streak after starting 1-2, and they have taken that embarrassing 37-17 loss to the Texans very well. And their play has been okay. And I can't say it's been great, but it's been okay. Can they play even better than they have thus far?
It's going to be tough when you're on a 5-game winning streak. You definitely have been doing the right things to go from 1-2 to now 6-2. So overall, it's possible, but I don't think that this team is going to play even better than what they have. I think they're going to hit a roadblock this Sunday when they play the 49ers.
I agree. I think that is where I think the rubber would meet the road, because I think I think what you're going to be seeing, I think you're going to be seeing a team that's going to be motivated to prove, well, we're not the dumpster fire we have been the last month. We were more the team that reeled off 5 straight, and I think they want to make this a statement game. So, you believe the 49ers are going to win this one?
I think so. I think that by the end of this game, both teams have the same record at 6-3. I think that having edge rushers such as Chase Young and Nick Bosa on each side are going to give too much pressure to the Jaguars line and to Trevor Lawrence. The 5-game losing streak is going to come to an end by as much of a margin. I'm not too sure at this time, but I do think that the positive wave for the Jaguars is going to humble them this Sunday when they host the 49ers. The 49ers are definitely looking to prove that they are the team that won the first 5 games and not the team that's lost the previous 3. I think the bye week is definitely going to be a positive thing for this team coming into their trip to Duval.
Yeah, I agree. If the Jaguars were playing better, I would say that I think that the 49ers need to watch out. But I think their motivation in wanting to wipe this 3-game losing streak out of their memory, I think it's going to be a little more pressing than the Jaguars' lack of hunger that I'm seeing, because they're now on a 5-game winning streak. I think they're going to ease up a little bit, and because of that, I think the 49ers will get them. And in an AFC North matchup in M&T Bank Stadium, between the Ravens, who are just destroying teams at home. They are going up against the Browns at 5-3. The Ravens are 7-2. The Ravens are a 5-point home faves. Now, the Browns have just pitched a shutout. Of course, it was the Cardinals. They pitched a shutout too. They have also given you a 3-point performance on defense. I mean, they've held the Titans to 3 points. They've held the Bengals to 3 points. And they held the Steelers to 12, even though, yes, the final score is 26-22. Two fumble returns for touchdowns will do that. Can the Browns be strong? How can the Browns, I should say, be stronger in execution on offense, because the defense has carried the day far too much and for far too long?
They've got to get consistent play out of Deshaun Watson, because the last time that these two teams met, Deshaun Watson wasn't playing because he had the shoulder injury that he got from things that we were talking about, pre-game rituals we were talking about many weeks ago. But it looks like DTR is not going to be your starting quarterback for the Browns. I don't think they're going to lose decisively as they did 28-3 the last time they played a few weeks ago. If they can continue to have consistent play at a Lamar Jackson, not Lamar Jackson, but from Deshaun Watson, I think there's a good chance that the Browns can keep this game interesting, as they just blanked the Cardinals in this past week. But again, like we talked about for that game, they've got to get more production from Jerome Ford and the other running backs there, because they are definitely missing Nick Chubb right now. I mean, Nick Chubb was definitely the one that established the run for that team and didn't put all the weight on the shoulders of the defense like they did in previous weeks. So when I look at all that and I look at it into the equation that I do, they've got to get this running game started early if they want a chance to keep things moving in a positive light.
I agree. And you hit the nail on the head. This team is sorely missing Nick Chubb. I believe that offensively, I think the whole team leaned heavily on him, and it just shows how important his presence is when it's gone. And I felt that before his injury. I definitely know that now. If there ever was an MVP that you knew was on the team, Nick Chubb's MVP of the Browns, and man, do they miss him. But the Ravens aren't going to miss him. And they have been absolutely wrecking shop, especially on the defensive end. I mean, 3 points to the 6 points to the Lions, 3 points to the Seahawks, 9 points to the Texans. I must be missing something here. Why are people not talking about this Ravens defense?
I mean, they're definitely not as exciting as watching like the Browns defense. I mean, especially when you're blanking teams out like you did in this past week. Of course, 20 years ago, the Ravens were primarily known for their defense, but 20 years later, things have shifted. Now more focus on their offense because their MVP they've had in the past, Lamar Jackson, and the amount of money that he's getting paid. So when I look at all that as a factor, that's the reason why their defense is being a little overlooked in comparison to their offense.
Yeah. And it's apparent. It's heavily apparent that it is. All right. I think I have an idea where you're going to be leaning, but who do you have in this game?
With Deshaun Watson playing, it's going to make things a little bit more interesting, but based on the fact that they beat him 28-3 last time, even though DTR was in the lineup as their starting quarterback for the Browns, I have to give it to the Ravens here. 5-point spread is definitely a lot better than considering when you beat the team by 25 points in the last matchup. So at least it's a little bit more respectable, but I do think the Ravens finished the season beating this team twice and, have a 2-0 record against the Browns for this season.
Yeah. I see the sweep too. I don't think it's going to be as easy of a time as it was when they played in Cleveland like you said, because Deshaun Watson will be starting quarterback for the Browns until further notice. But the Ravens, to me, the Ravens defensively, they won't be struggling much. They really won't have to deal with much. Amari Cooper and a Deshaun Watson that is half the time errant. That's pretty much all you have to focus on, in my opinion, with them. You neutralize the two of them. Defensively, the Ravens will have an easy day. And offensively, all they have to do is just not turn the ball over, which they have been doing pretty well for much of this year. So I also have the Ravens as well. Join us as well in the comments and in PSF. Please join us. Who do you have in these week's games, and who do you have in week 10 of the featured attractions portion of this program? We would like to know, and we would like to share it as well. And with that, we'll be right back with the chopping block. And you know what's coming up after that.
Next, the chopping block and snowflake of the week. This is Total Football Talk. Join Ryan McCarthy.
I became a Jets fan because Kermit the Frog was my favorite Muppet because he was green, and the Jets wore green. That's how I became a Jets fan.
And Dustin Henry.
ESPN is cashing all in on let's pay a few personalities and we'll just kind of fill in the gaps.
As they walk you through all of the world of sports from their perspective.
The Albany Empire, it's a literal circus.
No credentials required. Where, Ryan, say the tag.
Where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. On YouTube and where you can find all podcasts. This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to do a TED Talk, but I don't have anything to talk about yet. I'm getting there.
Life is for the living. We're not here that long.
You can learn anything you want to learn without any money spent.
What do I really enjoy? What do I really want out of life?
I am your host, WIZE.
Are you in a life holding pattern? Well, this is for you. Welcome to the Stuck in My Mind podcast. Live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central. Football, and more football, you say? Well, tune in to Total Football Talk. Join your hosts, Drew Willingham.
You were playing like a dumpster Pelican quarterback.
And Cole Johnson.
It sets up for possible play action. Did you hear that, Dak Prescott?
As they take you through all the paces, both on the field and in the boardroom, of Total Football Talk.
That's right. Total Football Talk joins you now, live every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. Starting now and every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central, on the Saratoga Media and the Comey Media Incorporated YouTube channels. Welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson. We thank you so much. Thank you to PSF. Thank you to YouTube. Thank you to Twitch and to LinkedIn and to Twitter /X for having us and broadcasting this. We appreciate you. And I think it's time for us to put some people and topics on the chopping block. You hear when they say the buck stops with me. Well, I think in the case, the Bucs should stop with Mark Davis. Now, because he has made errant moves such as hiring John Gruden and now hiring Josh McDaniels, now the franchise is on the hook for $85 million. Yes, they got to pay $85 million for two faux pas in head coaching hires. Now, let me put you in another way. The futility of the Las Vegas Raiders could actually be attributed to bowl cut. He looked for a small cash windfall from moving the team from Oakland to Las Vegas. And the same problems that you had in Oakland is the same problem you're having now. And so my question to you, sir, is this. Should Mark Davis, get fired for another failed head coaching hire? And yes, I understand he's the owner of the team and owners don't get fired, but I'm just saying, basically, should he sell the team is what I'm saying.
I mean, he keeps making the decisions that he's making. They're going to find enough dirt on him to Donald Sterling himself, okay? Because when it comes to Donald Sterling, when it comes to the man, myth, and legend Dan Snyder over there in Washington, they find ways. If they don't like you, the good old boys club will turn on you at some point. And they should on BC Mark Davis because of the BC itself, the bowl cut. It looks absolutely terrible. A man with that much money, a man who's part of a family that has the amount of history that it has in the NFL, should treat the NFL lineage a little bit better by providing himself a better haircut. If not, you have the money to go buy the right hair to cover it up. I mean, come on, BC. You are not the BC Lions. You are just bowl cut Mark Davis. If there was a way to fire you for one bad haircut, you should definitely do that for that in itself. Besides the fact that you had Josh McDummy in there for as long as you did, and it stirred up the culture in Las Vegas Raiders. Because you look at what Max Crosby said yesterday on the Pat McAfee show. You know, they had stogies smoking cigars after the game. You got them playing basketball in the locker room, Devontae Adams. The spirit is just, their spirits are raised over there in Raider Nation. And it showed with a decisive victory and having a passionate head coach that definitely enamors the Raider way. And he's not a Raider. He's just only been there for 2 years. But in the 2 years he's been there, he's bought into the culture of the Raider Nation and is definitely exemplifying what a head coach for the Raiders should be. I hope things keep going positive for the Raiders this season and AP keeps that head coaching job because the last head coach, Rich Bisaccia, did I say that right? Who was before Josh McDummy, should have kept that job and should have had the opportunity to be the head coach for a full season that following season instead of just an interim for part of that last season that he was there. And we're seeing that now as the tenure under Josh McDummy has been atrocious. And now AP is doing the right thing as far as how to lead a team over there in Las Vegas Raider Nation land.
Man, I could not say that better myself. Yes, I agree. I think they have turned a corner with Antonio Pierce. I think he should be the guy for the job. And yes, Bisaccia, he should have held on to that job because the same atmosphere we saw with the post game and Sunday's game was the similar atmosphere with them 2 years back when the Raiders did make the playoffs because the team bought into him, bought into his way of relating to the players, and then the organization was like, bump that. So yeah, who's next? Will Bullcut actually bring out Bill Parcells from retirement? I mean, I'm sorry, or he might hire Bill O'Brien again. I don't know, but all I know is this: BC. I like that. I have to write that down. BC and Josh McDummy. Oh my gosh, you come with some gems. You got to get out the way, Mark. It's just that simple. You got to get out the way. Look, be happy with the 26-year-old model who claims that's your girlfriend. Be happy with that, and don't want to get in fight with fans, and don't try to meddle and tinker with the business at hand in football. You may know football, but you hire people to take care of the logistics. And you getting your hands dirty in it like it's like you're molding clay. Nah, you can't do it. Oh, and I'm sorry. I hate to say this to you, bowl cut, but your hairstyle, yeah, it ceased to be popular in 1965. Yeah, just wanted to let you know.
Hey! Who's giving them the business?
I mean, for that also, you know, you had Al Davis, who was heavily involved in the Raiders' day-to-day operations, but I don't recall him being as much of a distraction as what Mark Davis is on a negative light. I mean, in his later years, yeah, because he was making some bad decisions as far as bringing in Jamarcus Russell and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But for the first half of his tenure as the Raiders owner, I mean, he did a pretty solid job. I mean, bringing Super Bowls to the team and wasn't, as far as a negative distraction, at least with his haircut.
Oh. Here's the difference between Al Davis and his son. I mean, Al, he cut his teeth in the sport. I mean, he coached the Raiders, and then he was the commissioner of AFL, and then he became the owner of the Raiders. And and yeah, he was a pain in the butt to the then commissioner Pete Rozelle, but as a coach, he knew what talent looked like. And as commissioner, he knew what good teams looked like. He knew what a healthy league looked like. So he had that wealth of knowledge and he had that wealth of understanding, and he brought that with him. Yeah, agreed. To probably until maybe the late 90s when the game passed him by. But before then, the dude knew what he was doing. And with Mark, he just doesn't have that feel. And I never got that feel with him. And I still don't now to this day. As I said, he may know football because he grew up under Al, but no. No. But from one team that is troubled because of an owner to another team that is troubled possibly because of an owner. Now, back in the 2019 season, the Cardinals were riding a 3-game winning streak halfway through the season when the owner of the team, Michael Bidwell, called a mandatory all-staff meeting to address the drunken driving arrest of his right-hand man, the executive vice president and chief operating officer, Rod Miniger. And it happened to be the second arrest of that person, of the top official of the year. And he didn't like it. And apparently, Mr. Bidwell seemed to be in such a tirade that he liked pitching tirades. And so because of that, the atmosphere has been uncomfortable. And I mean, this has been described from former Cardinal employees. It's been uncomfortable. It's been insufferable. And it has been unbearable to the point where that has actually leaked onto the field, where the once promising Cardinals has looked soap opera-ish and soap opera-like. So with that being said, and of course, you being sensitive in understanding of the situation with the Commanders and in light of the now former owner of the team, Daniel Snyder, should the NFL do something about Michael Bidwell?
I don't know if they're going to be able to do anything as serious as what they were able to do with Dan Snyder because it took years, Cole. I mean, it took years of digging up dirt on him. And the Bidwell family has been a part of this Arizona Cardinals ownership since the beginning of time. So, passing it down from generation to generation. I think what we have right here is a situation of an entitled brat who is a grown up, as an adult, is late in life as he is. And that's why he treats people as bad as they do. I mean, the more entitled, the more privileged that some people get. I mean, there's very few examples out there that I am aware of privileged people that actually treat people of lower levels of life, even though you shouldn't really say it that way. There's probably a better way to say it, but who treat people on a different income level, whether it's middle or lower class, with the same respect as they should for everyone. And this is an example of that, where Michael Bidwell probably treats people of his own caliber up there in, in the hierarchy of the way people make money and success out there. Probably treats them with respect. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know the man, but this was a guy who was given the keys to the Cardinals franchise into whatever other businesses that are associated with the Bidwell family that he inherited, and definitely is running it into the ground, especially when you look at the record of what they have. You look at the way the coaching is this year. You look at the fact that Kyler Murray's basically throwing himself out there on a whim just to prove that he can still play quarterback and potentially auditioning for another team next year. Because if they keep going the way they are, they're going to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. They're going to trade Kyler Murray for draft compensation or money or whatever they're going to do. And that's the reason why Kyler Murray is coming back. They're saying that Kyler Murray is coming back with no setbacks. But I feel like he's throwing himself out there to shop around for a better team because of an example like this, where you're playing for an owner who just doesn't respect the people around him. And it shows with the decision-making that they've had in Arizona, especially of late.
Ladies and gentlemen, Drew Willingham. I mean, that I could not have said that better. And yes, I totally agree with you. I think Kyler Murray wants to get back on the field to provide audition tape for the next place he's going to play at quarterback, and hopefully can prove that he could start somewhere else. And yeah, that culture has to change. But I agree. I think the NFL is sort of hamstrung and hand tied in doing anything, because as you actually said quite so eloquently, it took years, and it took a amount of evidence in years to have Daniel Snyder be forced out of the ownership chair. It's going to have to take something similar to force Michael Bidwell out the chair too, and they don't even come close to having the material to do that yet. So yeah, I agree with you.
Hey! Who's giving them the business?
Now this is painful. New York Giants quarterback Daniel Jones is going to miss the rest of the 2023 season with a torn anterior cruciate ligament in his right knee. And it marks the second time in 3 years he's had an injury sideline him. The MRI that he had yesterday showed that the season-ending injury was confirmed. Wow. The sixth pick in the 2019 draft, missed the final 6 games 2 years ago with a neck injury. Left tackle Andrew Thomas had this to say about the disappointing news of Daniel Jones having to miss the rest of the 2023 season. Quote, "It was devastating. You know, one of my teammates, one of my good friends, it sucks to hear news like that with injuries like that. It's something you can't control. So just try to do my best to uplift him during this situation, help them out, and wish him the best with the recovery." Close quote. I know this is a divisional rival, but this is one of the most debilitating injuries a football player can suffer. Is this the end? No, I'm sorry. Is this the beginning of the end for Daniel Jones in the Meadowlands?
I think so. I think so when it comes to that. When it comes to connections of things, it's not looking good for that in the Meadowlands. For one, it's not looking good for his future as a starting quarterback based on some of the play that we have gotten from him this year as far as the New York Giants. I mean, when it comes to this situation here and Cam Akers for the Vikings, it's very sad. Cam Akers now with the second ACL injury in the last 3 to 4 years. Definitely something that's hard to come back from. But when it comes to Daniel Jones right here, the beginning of the end for him in the Meadowlands, I feel like is the potential, because they're going to be another team that this year, the amount of losses that they have are going to exceed the wins that they have. And they're going to be in the sweepstakes for a potential new quarterback in the draft. Will they be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes? More than likely not, because the Cardinals with 1 win, the Panthers with 1 win, even though they have their so-called quarterback and Bryce Young for the future, I feel as if the Giants are going to be making some moves. They could be the ones that trade for Kyler Murray this offseason. Who knows? There's going to be some other moving pieces around the league as well. And we'll have to see how things pan out when it comes to this team right now for the New York Giants. But for Daniel Jones to be there in the 2024 season, I just don't see it based on the production that they've gotten out of him this season.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it even rougher for him. I mean, he started the season being on the turf 7 times against the Cowboys on Sunday night, and the season has gotten much better after that. And there were many among the Giants, and of course we have a brother who's a Giants fan who didn't necessarily call for his job, but basically was saying that We thought he turned a corner last year. It looks like he did not, and it's disappointing. And now he has a disappointing end to a disappointing season. And yeah, I agree. I think if they can, and then they're going to try to find a trade partner. I don't know who is going to be willing to take Daniel Jones off their hands, but yeah, it looks like they also might be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes too. Oh, I feel for them, and I definitely feel for Daniel. Prayers to you, Danny Dimes, Danny Crimes, Danny whatever. But you do not deserve to have your ACL on your right knee go. And off of a non-contact injury, if I'm not mistaken. Oh my gosh, that's sad. And
Total Football Talk.
oh, it's not Christmas yet, but we are going to award this week's Snowflake of the Week. Time to do that, one of our favorite parts of the show. And here is Drew to award his Snowflake of this week.
You know, when it comes to the Snowflake of the Week, people,
Let me talk to you.
this dude's got a pretty cool name, but plays for a pretty bad team and a pretty bad owner, which is why they got knocked around the way they did in this past week. Again, he's got a pretty cool name. I can't knock him for the name.
What?
Again, I said I cannot knock him for the name.
What?
His name is Mother Fathering Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is not a part of the land of the Dumpster Pelicans right here. He is not a part of this team of Dumpster Pelicans right here as far as his name goes.
Stop it. Get some help.
I know I'm dragging on the name situation a little bit too far, but when it comes to this man's name, I have to give it to Clayton Tune as the Snowflake of the Week, in my opinion. This guy showed up for a team that lost 27-0. Threw the ball a total of 20 times, only completing 11 of those 20 passes for 58 yards and 2 interceptions. One of the worst showings of the week as far as overall production. There were other quarterbacks that threw more interceptions in a game this week, but not on 58 yards on 11 of 20 attempts as the only quarterback for the Cardinals in that game. Had he been one of 2 quarterbacks, one of 3 quarterbacks, there was a rotation of quarterbacks in the game, and he had that little bit of production, I probably would have picked somebody else. But when you have 20 pass attempts, 58 yards, and 2 interceptions, even though your name is cool, I can't give it to you based on the fact, I can't give you a positive note based on your cool name. I have to give you the Dumpster Pelican Award of the Week in the Snowflake of the Week award. And that you have to do this to me.
Acknowledge me.
And that is my take for Snowflake of the Week.
Snowflake and Dumpster Pelican? Goodness gracious. Wow. That's a bit stiff. All right. Now, you know, when we see a team that wins, you normally, we mentioned the Las Vegas Raiders locker room. Yeah, everybody is happy. They're lighting up stogies. They're playing basketball in the locker room. They're high-fiving one another. You know, they're talking loud and talking bold, and they're all happy. You know, that's the atmosphere that even if you weren't participating on the team, that the team would have, because, well, you may have had a hand in contributing to a victory. Now, why am I saying this? No, I'm not focusing on the Raiders. I'm just giving you a good glimpse as to what a winning locker room should look like. Travel with me, shall we? Travel with me to Acrisure Stadium. Travel with me to their locker room, the Steelers locker room, where they won 20-16 over the Tennessee Titans. Everything was great. You had Deontay Johnson, who he struggled throughout this year. He finally had a really good game. He topped it off with a game-winning touchdown reception. But no, I'm not focused on Deontay Johnson. He's great. No, I'm focusing on the other side. Yeah, The guy who was supposed to be the stalwart wide receiver and has actually had some good moments. Yes, the standout from Georgia, George Pickens, George Malik Pickens. Now, everything seemed to be fine when he had this touchdown catch. Oh, but he forgot it's not college. He needs to put the second foot down. So the touchdown catch turned out to be incomplete. He then bailed out when Deontay Johnson had the game-winning touchdown reception. And then he decided to take everything Steelers off of his social media accounts. Son, snap out of it. No, I'm sorry. You do it so much better, Mike.
Stop it. Get some help.
What's wrong with you, George? Come on, man. You won the game. And for the fact that you may have only had one reception and you actually could have had two if you actually put down the second foot with a touchdown catch. For people who really, especially in a win, would care about your stat. Oh. Coach Prime, go ahead.
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
Son, it was immature.
What?
It was back ass. It was backwards.
What?
It was absolutely kitty litter.
What?
Child's play.
What?
It was absolute dog drivel.
What?
Heck, a 4-year-old was more immature than you were.
What?
You won the game. Why are you upset with your team? You won the game. I would get if you lost, but you won, and you actually acted like a prima donna. Come on, brother. Grow up and do better. Grow up and be better. I can't believe these fools in winning they act like spoiled brats. Goodness gracious, man.
The 2-minute drill is next. This is Total Football Talk. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets. Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Monday at 3:05 p.m. Eastern, 2:05 p.m. Central. Exclusively on the Sertoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool. Join the transporter to Hades.
Your butt and gut becomes one.
Join the reformer of hooker whores.
This is my daughter, Placenta Booty Johnson.
Join the bronze god.
Whenever you are in distress, take off your baseball cap and throw it in the air.
Join your very own superhero of broadcasting, Chris Bass.
So whatever color crayon they get, they palm it and do 2 circles, and that translates to, I can beat up black people.
As she takes you through the week's paces in Baseline. Live every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central, 5... No, Pacific time zone people, just stay asleep when this is on live and just catch the recording. Oh, I'm sorry. Exclusively on the Chris Base YouTube channel.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk with the chair. I am Cole Johnson. I'm sorry, with Drew Willingham, I am Cole Johnson. And thank you for the chat. And thank you, Mickey. You're doing what we actually asked everyone to do. We appreciate you.
Yeah, my apologies. As I've been getting over this cold that I've had to use the facilities during our commercial break, but I'm ready to rock and roll as we've got one great set of topics left for this upcoming week for week 10.
Yes, we do. And it's time to get to it. Now, for week 10, you have the Eagles, the Dolphins, the Rams, and the Chiefs on a bye for this upcoming slate of games. The Chiefs, the Rams, the Dolphins, and the Eagles are all set to take their byes for this coming week, week 10 of the 2023 season. Now, there are other games, of course, that are on tap, and Mickey is already joining. He's already doing the picks. Join along with him, shall you?
The Rams really need a bye week this week. Of all four of those teams you mentioned, the Rams need it the most. They really need a break from losing.
Yes, because they are straight up dumpster pelicans.
Yeah, 3-game losing streak. They're probably the fifth one in the back right there. The shorter looking one, like they call it the Daffy Duck looking dumpster pelican. But yeah, that's the Rams right now. Is they're in that 3-game losing streak. Good on them for having a break this week. A break from us having to watch that dumpster fire over there.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, so let's start with the Thursday night game. Oh, good Lord. Already. The Bears are 2-7. They host the Panthers, who are 1-7. There actually is a favorite in this game. Goodness gracious. 8:15 kickoff on Thursday. Who do you have in this one, sir?
I think for the first time in 2.5 months, because I normally work on Thursday nights, I think for the first time in 2.5 months, I'm not going to be stressing to listen to different points of this game right here. Because when it comes to this game right here, if anybody can afford to miss a game of action, it's going to be this game right here, the Panthers and the Bears. The Bears should win this game decisively because they are a team that's better than the 2-7 record that they are displaying, in my opinion. They should be 3-7 by the end of this. The Panthers will fall to 1-8, and more question marks around that team will continue to subside when it comes to the Carolina Panthers. I feel like the Bears are going to win this one.
Yeah, Mickey has the Bears, and Joe don't know with Mickey. Who do you have in these games? I also picked the Bears as well. Sunday, 9:30 a.m. kick. Yes, this is going to be the second of the two Frankfurt games. For those who don't know, Frankfurt is a city in Germany. The 2-7 Patriots are the home team, but they're in Germany. They face off against the 4-5 Indianapolis Colts. You know where I get that from. The Colts are a 1-point favorite. Who do you have in this one, sir?
With this one right here, I feel like we're going to have an upset. I feel like the Hoodie's going to get a win in this one. The Patriots defense will be able to contain Uncle Rico, as Uncle Rico's not doing a lot for the Colts offense to really impress me, to make me feel like the Colts are going to win this game. The Patriots, with the amount that they have gone through this year, I feel like it's time for the tide to shift a little bit. They're only on a 2-game losing streak. I feel like they'll be 3-7 by the end of this game and get the victory over the Colts.
Yeah, I think Mickey Swithy and so am I. Uncle Rico will bring the Colts to 5-5. Good Lord.
Oh, I said Patriots. I disagree.
Oh, you disagree? You say
Yeah.
Patriots?
Yeah, I said Patriots. I feel
I'm
like it's
sorry.
time that their
I'm
2-game losing streak ends and they get the 3 wins in the season.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm rooting for a tie, but I just don't have faith in Mac Jones because this game is.
Think it'll be more ugly than the Thursday night game?
Not quite, but it has the potential to be ugly. Sunday 1 p.m. game. A team on the rise versus a team that has found its stride. The Cincinnati Bengals are 5-3. They are hosting the Houston Texans at 4-4. The Bengals are a touchdown favorite. Who do you have in this one, sir?
This one's tough. They're two really good teams that are matching up this week. And the Bengals themselves have a 4-game winning streak, but I feel like that's going to come to an end as the Houston Texans, even though they've only on a 1-game winning streak, they're rolling. And with someone who's got 14 touchdowns to 1 interception, the rookie CJ Stroud, they put up 187 points so far to 165 against them this year, as well as the Bengals have only put up 155 points to the 162 points against. The amount of points that are getting scored on their defenses are very similar. Only difference is by a field goal between the two teams. The Bengals giving up 3 points less. But when I look at the fact that Houston has scored as much as they have, they've scored 187 points. They've got 32 total more points than the Bengals do. To me, that tells me that they are a higher scoring offense with a very similar defense to the Bengals, which should be a recipe for their second straight win and to improve to 5-4.
That sounds really good. It really does. And Mickey actually agrees with you. Texans fan, I disagree with you. And the reason why I do, I need to see the Texans run the ball better. And if they can do that, I would feel that they could, because I have along with your same lines of symmetry. The Bengals offense is similar to the Texans offense. They throw the ball a lot and they run it. And I have the same complaint about the Bengals offense. I want to see them run the ball more. Unfortunately, I'd say this for the Texans: the Bengals can get away with not running the ball as better than the Texans can, and I think the Bengals slightly. And this is, of course, they're at home. They are slightly better, and they're on a roll. And yes, I think the Texans will give them a game. I just don't think that they will have it. I would love for them to be 5-4. Unfortunately, the Texans are going to be 4-5. I think.
Yeah, in their last game, Mixon only had 37 yards, rushing on 14 carries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the game before that, he only had 80 yards, but the week before that, it was another 38-yard rushing game. So 2 out of the last 3 games, he hasn't even eclipsed 40 yards rushing. And you're playing a team like the Houston Texans. This kid only rushes 30 or 40 yards. Bengals are losing this game.
Now, I agree with you there. And I'm saying this from the standpoint I think they will try to run Mixon more because of that. Because Joe Mixon has to be more in the mix in that offense. And if he's not, the Bengals will be losing games like this more often. But I think they will put him more in the mix. And the Texans, I just think on the opposite end can run like they should.
But you, as like an offensive coordinator or head coach, when you got a running back, you gave him the ball 14 times and he had 37 yards. And you got Joe Burrow. How patient can you be? How many more opportunities can you give him to run the ball in a game when you're already giving him over a dozen carries in a game? You're giving him 2 more carries than a dozen, and he's only giving you 37 yards. How much more patient? How many more opportunities can you give this kid to establish the run when 2 out of the last 3 weeks he can't do it? I just don't have the faith in the Bengals. I feel like their Cinderella month is going to come to an end, and they're going to lose to this special kid being CJ Stroud. It sounds good what's coming out of my mouth for you as a fan. And I know it's hard for you to disagree with the facts I'm throwing out here. But when I look at the stats, the facts, and everything we've seen in the past 9 weeks, My gut's just telling me Houston's getting this win this weekend, and I hope so for your sake.
And I love you for saying all that. I do. And I want all of what you said to happen and come true. I just don't like the fact that the Texans have an issue running too. And I just think that is the downfall. Their defense is bend but don't break, and it sometimes can break. Similar to the Bengals defense. But the Texas run offense is worse than the Bengals to me. And I think that's the difference. It's unfortunate, but I think that's the difference. Yes, I want what you're saying to come true, though. But I just think the Bengals are just a little more talented than the Texans.
And I mean, the Texans, even though they're having a hard time establishing the run for, CJ Stroud to throw for that many yards against a team like the Buccaneers are better than the record that they're showing right now.
And they're
a pretty decent team. So if he's going to do that, I have to go all in on the Texans in this game at least.
I feel you. And I appreciate you. And thank you, Mickey. To the ketchup, I'm sorry, not the ketchup bottle, Acrisure. And yes, I do this because my former manager hates the fact that the stadium is now called Acrisure Stadium, and they get on their nerves endlessly by calling it that. The Steelers at 5-3. They host the Packers at 3-5. 1 p.m. kickoff. There is the time on Sunday. The Steelers by a field goal are the favorites. Who do you have in this game, sir?
Even though their last game was ugly, I have to give it to the Steelers in this one. I just feel like it's a home game. You're playing the Packers, who have had their struggles this year, which is why they're 3-5. Packers have slipped to 3-6, and Kenny Pickett will definitely not be the reason why they win this game, I don't think, but they will improve to 6-3 and have a chance to make some noise in the playoffs, at least the first week of the playoffs.
Well, I mean, he hasn't been the reason that they have won most of their games this year, so it will not be a surprise if they do win, and Kenny Pickett is there in spite of it. TJ Watt, to me, is one of the defensive year candidates, and the dude just continues to shine, even with an offense that just is not there. But to me, the Packers are a recipe for the Steelers to just simply just take the game and just make them irrelevant. So I'm with you. I pick Steelers. Same thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Mickey actually is picking the Packers. Well, for the fellow AFC North fans, they hope that you're right, Mickey. The Hard Luck Buccaneers, Sunday 1 p.m. kick. They're 1.5 point favorites, although they are 3-5. They're taking the tough last second loss at home to face off against the Titans, also at 3-5. The Buccaneers, as I said, are 1.5 point faves. Who do you have in this one, sir?
I mean, unless Baker Mayfield shows up as Bunker Stayfield and just completely bunkers this thing up, I feel like he's got a good chance to lead this team to victory, improve to 4-5. In the Will Levis, game where he had his breakout game for 4 touchdowns, gets further and further away from our memories. As in this game right here, they've got the same record here. The Buccaneers are hosting at home, and they almost won the game this past weekend against Houston. If it wasn't for, CJ Stroud throwing for nearly 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, he would have won that game against Houston. So for that alone, because he's been showing up in tough games, I have to give it to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the win this weekend.
Now, Mickey has the Titans in this one. The fan had, of course, I'm definitely rooting for Tampa. The analyst had is basically saying the same. Not rooting for him, but just looking at what the Titans are. Look, Will Levis offensively makes that Titans team better. And memo to head coach Mike Vrabel. Sir, you have found your new quarterback. This guy could extend your lifespan in Nashville. You better say very soon, Will Levis is our quarterback of the future. Otherwise, when you do not make the playoffs again this year, you'll be out on your keister. Will Levis is your guy. Back him. And I'm saying that because I'm living in the city. Back him. Because he's doing things that you don't even allow Ryan Tannehill to do. Look, Baker Mayfield, I think the Buccaneers have found their guy. They have found their signal caller. They love what he brings, and I think they're finding they're finding a youthful spirit to him. I mean, because let's be honest. I mean, Tom Brady, he did not have a youthful spirit to him, but he had a certain confidence that you felt assured that no matter what situation that they faced, they were going to be on the right side of things. So you had a different type of confidence. It gave you a different type of swagger. With Mayfield, they feel as though that they're in games and that they feel as though that he is invested in the team. I see that confidence spilling over in this game, and I'm picking the Buccaneers as well.
Even though Tom Brady may have had more of a mature, demeanor there when it came to celebrating, he was like the biggest kid in the room. I mean, look at what they did when they won that Super Bowl, and they're slinging the Super Bowl trophy around a boat from boat to boat to where one small miscue could have lost that thing forever.
That thing could have been, who was taking a drink.
Overall, there's celebrations. When it comes to that, he definitely reverts back to the kid within. But there's moments on the field where you have to show ultimate maturity and poise. And Baker Mayfield looks like there's some Tom Brady that rubbed off on him. The record is not where they want it to be right now, but they've had some growing pains. He's had to learn the system. His guys, of course, he did have an offseason to do it, but sometimes it takes more than just your first offseason. It takes game experience, and that's what we're seeing here. As the games they're losing are still very close. That's why I have to give it to Baker Mayfield in this game, in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I agree. I totally agree. To the afternoon slate on Sunday, 4:05 kick. Let me see. So we are now in Standard Time, so that means it is a 2:05 local time kick. In the desert, the Cardinals at 1-8. They host the Falcons at 4-5. The Falcons are a 2.5 road favorite. Who do you have in this game, sir?
If the Falcons do not win this game, the big old mustache needs to get fired this weekend. Like, you're playing the Arizona Cardinals.
Why?
One of the worst teams in the league.
Why?
They were 1-8 with probably the worst owner of the league right now. And Taylor Heineke's your starting quarterback. You're only one game below 500. You are favored to win this game. If you lose this game, big old stash, it's time for you to hit the bricks and get on out of there and find somebody else to lead this team, because if you lose to a 1-8 team to give them their second win of the season, you don't deserve to be a head coach of a team with that much talent that you have around you. I feel like the Falcons will win this game, but if it doesn't go the way that I just stated, it's time to get a big old stash on up out of there.
Why are you focusing on this man's porno mustache? Oh my gosh. Oh, Lord. Mickey picks the Falcons. So do I. And yes, I agree for the exact same reason as you. If the Falcons can't even, I don't care where they play, if the Falcons can't beat the Cardinals, then Arthur Smith is not their guy. He should be out of there. And it should be a slam dunk victory for them. The Lions, they go up there by 6-2. They are going out to LA to play the LA Chargers, who are 4-4. The Lions are an ever so razor thin 1-point road favorite. Kickoff is at 4:05 p.m. Eastern, 1:05 p.m. in LA. Your thoughts, sir, on this game, and who do you have?
This one, I feel like the Detroit Lions are going to come out biting kneecaps off. Had a week's rest up, improved to 7-2, and they're playing a Chargers team. It just played one of the worst games of the week in this past night. So they didn't improve from this past game, playing the Jets team that, the Jets statistically should have won the game based on they had better stats overall in some cases than what the Chargers did. And if the Chargers show up the way they did against the Jets, the Detroit Lions are going to smack them around. And for that, I have to at least agree with the synopsis of the preview of this game and pick the Lions to win this game.
Yeah, I don't see any other scenario in this one. I'm still not sold on Brandon Staley leading this team. I think he hurts his team more than helps them. Meanwhile, the Lions, I think I think they still have that chip on their shoulder and point to prove that they aren't just chumps and they're going to fade into the background and recede to the back. That they want to prove that they are the team that you got to talk about, and you got to mention them with, of course, not necessarily the Eagles, because the Eagles are lapping the field. They're a game and a half. They're a game and a half ahead of the Lions right now as we speak. But they want to be mentioned in the same breath as the Cowboys and the 49ers and even the Seahawks right now, where you'd say, okay, so this team can go late in January and give these other contenders trouble. This would actually give them the benefit of going forward and saying, yeah, we beat a team, may have been 500 at the time, but we beat a team that they were a playoff team the year before, and we measure up against them and we beat them in their crib. I think they're going to do it, and I agree with you. Lions are going to be 7-2, and they're going to beat the Chargers, and I think they may beat them up because I think they're just some more physical than the Chargers are. And speaking of the star, the Cowboys 425 kick at 5-3. They lick their wounds of being 5 points and 5 yards short. They host the Giants at 2-7, who are licking a whole lot of wounds. Oh my gosh, that team is a mass unit. The Cowboys are 13.5-point faves. Who do you have in this one, sir?
The largest favor of all of the games for this one right here, 13.5. And I have to go with that based on how they played the Eagles this past week. And if it wasn't for the penalties, they would have won that game. And looking at how the Giants have been playing, if they've got Danny DeVito's long-lost relative as their starting quarterback, things are not going to look good for the Giants. I have to give it to the Cowboys in this one pretty decisively, at least by 2 touchdowns.
I'm sorry, my bad. The thinking toxic. You just mentioned Danny DeVito. Yes, Tommy DeVito will probably be starting this game. Could we see a repeat of what we saw in the Meadowlands with these two teams played in September? Sunday, you might. Cowboys easily, and I don't think it's even close because it will definitely be a candidate already for the other 425 kick. The Seattle Seahawks at 5-3. They host Drew's beloved Commanders at 4-5, but they are a road dog at 6 points. So who do you have for this one?
The Seahawks show up like they did this past weekend. It's not going to go as well as they favor them for this game. Sam Howell plays like he has been and continues to grow. I feel like the Commanders have a really good chance at winning this game, but it all depends on what that offensive line does. If they can hold the defense and not give up as many sacks, can help establish the run with Brian Robinson. I feel like if they do those things the right way, the Commanders have a really good chance of winning this game this Sunday against the Seahawks.
Vicky also picked the Lions. He also picked the Cowboys. He also picked the Falcons as well. In this game, he actually goes with his team, the Seahawks. And I have to roll with the both of you. And the reason being, I think the Seahawks have a bad taste in their mouth because they got mollywopped in Baltimore. And I think they want to prove that they're not the team that they were in Baltimore. And plus, they have the dangling carrot of the NFC West right there in front of them, and that they control their own destiny in winning the division, because they still have to play the 49ers twice, which that I think that starts happening later on in the month, and I think they play 2 out of 3 weeks against each other. But the dangling carrot of the NFC West is there, and I think they want to hang with the 49ers, and so in order to do that, they got to win. And the Commanders are going to give them a game. Oh, they're going to give them a game. But I just think they're going to fall just a little bit short. And actually, in fact, I think it will be less than 6 points. But they're going to fall a little short. I actually want the Commanders to win this game, but I just don't think they will.
Clarification, I disagree with both of you. I think the Commanders are going to win this game.
Really?
Yeah. Because based on how they showed up this past week in the production that they gave for the Seahawks and then losing, And then the Commanders, for them, even though I feel like they should have put up more points, or the Patriots should not have been able to put up as many points with the amount of time possession that they had, I feel like things are trending upward for this Commanders team, and they will get the victory this Sunday against the Seahawks to make it one more week that the Seahawks have to go to get closer towards a division title.
Yeah. A team that gets mollywopped 37-3 and didn't get injured.
I can't pick them at least to be a 6-point favorite when they lose to that magnitude.
No. I think that spread is a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think 6. I think 2 or 3. That's what I believe. So yeah, I agree
even
with
that's generous. Even that's still generous. But I see your point, and it could go either way.
Yeah.
Especially when you think of how close their records and the amount of points that these teams are putting up. Because when you look at the Seahawks, I mean, they put up 171 points, but they've been scored on 175 points at this point of the year. The Commanders, the reason why they are 4-5 is they put up 191 points, but the defense has given up 245 points on the year, which is probably why they made the moves they did with Montez Sweat and Chase Young, because the amount of points they've given up, because it's as lopsided as it is, you should favor the Seahawks in that one. But I just feel like momentum's going forward in a positive way based on the win that the Commanders have gotten this past weekend, and the losses they've had recently have been pretty close. The team's been getting nitty and gritty each and every game to stay with it, and the Seahawks got mollywopped in this past game. That's why I feel like on momentum itself, the Commanders win this game.
I just hope that they won't feel they got a chance to play without him, but I hope they don't continuously feel the loss of a Montez Sweat, because I just loved him on the Commanders. I think he was a great difference maker on that defense. But your points are valid. I can't disagree with any of the points you said about this game at all. But it's going to be a good game. I think it has the potential to be game of the week. I really do. I believe that. Sunday night, 8:20 kickoff, 5:20 in the desert. The Las Vegas Raiders and the New York Jets. Why? Jets are the road favorites by 2.5. Why this game was on the schedule, they figured that Aaron Rodgers was going to be playing, and unfortunately he hasn't ever since September 11th. But you've known this for 2 months, and you still have this on the Sunday night slate. What? Never mind. Info box. Your picks, sir.
I mean, for that alone, it should definitely be switched up. And especially with the way the Jets showed up this past week, you definitely should be switching this game up, because at this point in the year, you should be able to change what your premier games are for the week. But for this one, based on the Raiders, what they did this past week and the upswing that comes from that, I have to disagree with this slate as far as the pick and the favoring of the Jets in this game. I feel like this might have been favored even higher if Aaron Rodgers was there, but I feel like they forgot to change it to Raiders by 2.5 because based on what they did this past weekend, how could you not give it to the Raiders, especially with the way the Jets lost last night? They're going to have one less day to prepare because they played on a Monday night game. So with all that said, you have to give it to the Raiders in this one, and I feel like they win it similar to the light of the way that the Chargers did last night, but not as ugly.
You mentioned the last word you mentioned. That is what the Jets need to make this game ugly. I mean, the Jets need to make this game bowling shoe ugly for real. And to me, their best performance, besides the Monday night game against the Bills, their best performance to me was the win against the Eagles, and that game was bowling shoe ugly, especially in the second half. And they need to make this game as ugly as possible for them to win it. The way the Raiders played this past Sunday and the way the Jets played last night, no, I don't see that happening. That's Raiders. It's Raiders all day for me. Not even close. It's Raiders. Although Mickey disagrees with the both of us, Nah, Raiders.
Mickey does a lot of disagreeing throughout a lot of Sartoba media shows, but I have to say, at least for this one, he's wrong too.
And he also says Drew the Hoss will show up Sunday.
Let's see. We'll find out. We got 5 more days till then.
And Monday night, 8:15 kick in Orchard Park, New York. The Bills at 5-4. They stumble off of their Sunday night loss to the Bengals, but they face off against the 3-5 Denver Broncos, the improving Denver Broncos. But the Bills are a 7.5-point favorite. Who do you have, sir?
If the Broncos continue to do that word that you said, improve, as they are on a 2-game winning streak, they have a good chance of beating the Bills this Monday night. But I just don't see it happening. I think that the Bills are embarrassed. They lost by 6 points on Sunday, and they're going to prove that they are a better team than the Denver Broncos on Monday. They will improve their record to 6-4. The Broncos will fall to 3-6. And that is my prediction for this upcoming Monday night.
Yeah. Broncos don't have anything for the Bills. I want to believe they do. They don't. I mean, you can have the Bills play the way they have played, and they have played bad. And I think they still can beat the Broncos Monday night. So those are our 2-minute drill picks. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you again.
Total football talk.
As long as it's one. That's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording.
And now it is the post game, and this is where we give our final thoughts and our final word for the week that has been. And so, for his final thoughts on the Week 9 NFL 2023 season, here's Drew.
It's definitely an interesting Week 9 as we saw throughout this past week. The Steelers beating the Titans the way they did. Kansas City getting that win over the Dolphins and humbling their explosive offense a little bit. Josh Dobbs, doing what he did over the Atlanta Falcons. There's a lot we can say, and there's a lot of hype going into this Week 10. I'm definitely excited to see how things go. Not excited to see how the Thursday or Monday or really Monday night games go, or actually any of the night games, Thursday, Sunday, or Monday. I'm just really not excited to see for Week 10. But for Week 9, definitely, it definitely showed the position of where some teams are at and how they're elevating out here and their potential success could be for the playoffs. We've done a lot of total football talk discussion in these 3 hours. And from the last part of my post game, I want to shift gears to a couple things before we get on out of here. First of all, another great episode with Cole. 10 episodes in the books. Had a great time as always, my man here. And already looking forward to next week's episode 11. For those of you watching on Sartoba Media, there will not be an episode of D. Willie in the evening this Thursday night. Just so much was going on trying to get over this cold, and I have to go back to work today, my full-time career, after being on PTO the past 8 days. But within that PTO, I was able to make 3 guest appearances on shows I normally wouldn't be able to do because I would normally be working. That is No Credentials Required with Ryan McCarthy for the commercials that you saw earlier in this broadcast. The Wrestling Realm with Brian H. Waters, The Real Dwayne Allen, Hugh Scott, and Brandon Guy being a guest on their show as well. And then on Thursday last week, I was also a guest on the Student of the Game podcast with Kyle Nash. So go back and check out those platforms and that great content. Had a lot of fun with those guys. Look forward to doing that again at some point in the future. As always, check out Commander's Gridiron Report, as Cole has said earlier, as you can check out yesterday's episode, now available on Sartoba Media, but also have a Sartoba Media win to discuss for today. Over this past weekend, Sartoba Media had another 5 subscribers on YouTube, taking that channel to now over 1,200 subscribers. It is an absolute, I still can't believe it. It is a great thing to experience. there were people when I made decisions to part away from something that I was a part of for 5 years, saying that maybe that wasn't the greatest decision. Well, now you can see what great of a decision that was. And the energy and stuff that's coming along with me, it wouldn't be possible without Cole Johnson right here, as well as Kyle Nash. The two of you are big contributors to this network. Cole with what we put together with this show. Kyle with throwing 2 shows on the network per week to where we normally have 5 shows running between Monday through Friday. So I attribute these wins as much to you guys as I do for myself for doing the things that I have for this year as a result of other things that have been experienced. I wouldn't be here without you. This is only the beginning. I just hope that the fire that's coming from the momentum of Sartoba shifting upward rubs off onto other networks such as Comey Media and the other ones that we collaborate with, so that way they can join in on the success, because I had a feeling this would happen. It might take a year or so to get here. I didn't think it was going to happen within 4 months or so. So for that is a great experience. I appreciate all the love and support, and we'll do everything we can to continue to deliver for you on a weekly basis, just as we did with episode 10 today for Total Football Talk. Greatly appreciate you guys for tuning in and for all the love and support.
And it is a pleasure to have any hand in your success anywhere, no matter what Sartoba Media does. So totally am happy to, like I said, lend any assistance, and congratulations on getting to 1,200 subscribers on YouTube. That is awesome.
1.2
That's
thousand.
awesome.
To
That's
the
awesome.
doubters that were out there, all I got to say is thank you. Because you fueled this to happen. It was those of you that doubted, you fueled the comeback. You fueled the content. And again, all I can say is thank you.
There you go. That's what I love. I love it when people think they're haters. That warms my heart. I look at the fact that we now have come upon the halfway mark of this season's regular season in the NFL, and I am I'm remiss in seeing things such as lack of a running game with certain teams, the throwback to a probably more physical era, but I'm happy in understanding that we're seeing better quarterback play than ever before. And yeah, I could talk about the CJ Stroud thing, but seriously, just as important as with CJ Stroud throwing for 470 yards in a game and 5 touchdowns with no picks is a guy in Joshua Dobbs who barely knew his playbook, barely knew the players on the team, maybe knew if he knew 10 plays, he was lucky, and was able to, in 5 days' time from being put on a team, lead a franchise to a victory on the road. If anything describes the quarterback play being elevated, that speaks to it in volumes, probably just as much, if not more, than even the CJ Stroud performance. Because it's proving that the quarterback play is important. And if you have it there and he is solid and he does what he's supposed to do, which is be basically the point guard of the football team and take care of the ball, you can do magical things and win games. So is the game in good hands? Yeah. It's in good hands considering that they still want to stretch the game internationally. We've seen 3 London games. We just got past the first Frankfurt game. The second one is coming up this Sunday, and that one might be a little worse than the one that we saw this past Sunday. And we actually saw a pretty good game in Frankfurt this past Sunday. The one coming up Sunday might be bull and shoe ugly, but the game is in healthy hands. When you can talk about a league that each team can profit $300 million a year, and I mean each team can profit that, and the owner's puppet, and I'm not saying it in being glib, I'm saying and basically that's his role, and the commissioner, Roger Goodell, when the commissioner can earn 60 million of that, 65 million, and all he has to do is basically be the mouthpiece to the 31 owners and the Green Bay Packers ownership group, which is like in the thousands. Then the league is in great hands. And so you see them want to stretch the game to England, to Germany, sometimes to Canada, and to Mexico. Where is it going to go next? Who knows? But we know that we just celebrated the 100-year anniversary of the sport, of the league. And now starting in the second 100 years, they want to make sure the play is sleeker. The players are more in tune. They're healthy, and they actually have a healthy way of maneuvering after the sport. And hopefully that still is the case. But what I do pray, though, is that they have the understanding that this game is the best thing going today. There isn't a sport that's better. There isn't a game that's better. And in NFL, there isn't a league that is healthier. And if they can understand that and keep going and improve a little bit of things, because the one thing that I really do hope does change is the fact that they stop devaluing running backs and understand the importance and value of the position. Then this game can go in places that we, even as little children, never thought could have gone.
As long as it's one. Oh, it's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
Well said. That fired me up for some more action coming in about 2 days, even though that game will most likely be bowling shoe ugly.
God, that game's going to be horrible. That game's going to be extremely horrible. Oh, my gosh. Anything for the Total Football Talk audience before we go, sir?
Hey, thank you all for the participation. I know it's different getting used to the new time. Mm-hmm. We now, have the new 9 a.m. time that will be official as of today going forward. Mm-hmm. Cole's got some great content that's coming out, for Comey Media and all the other projects that he's a part of, with Wise and Snowman and just his own solo projects as well. But for this at 9 a.m., hopefully soon, whenever you can work it in, you can update that awesome commercial that we have to where we have the 9 a.m. commercial, and we can have this with your awesome voice and storytelling within that commercial for our show here for Total Football Talk, so we can get back to advertising the correct time for the show. Because, yesterday with the Commander's Gridiron Report, I just have the original one for the 3 p.m. So if we can get back to that one, then we'll be in action right there with the plug-in away of this show to try to get more eyes on this product. But for those of you that are watching on YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Twitch, we are retired on Facebook. We are no longer playing this show on Facebook, right. But we have acquired PSF, the Pro Sports Fan app, in replacement of Facebook, because when it comes to the coverage that we have for our Total Football Talk fans, we try to put it on the best areas possible where we can get the most eyes on it for you guys to be as entertained as possible, to get you away from those hokey types of shows you see on cable TV. Hardly anybody watches cable anymore. So thank you all for tuning in and helping us bring the energy to you for now the 10th time in as many weeks.
Yeah. And I consider this an honor and a privilege to do this, to talk about the sport that I love more than any other with a brother that I love, unlike most other people on this planet. So this is an absolute thrill and a joy. And I thank you for sharing the stage with me, Drew. And I thank you for this idea, unearthing to this. And now we're 10 shows in. And we thank you all.
3 hours.
I know.
3 hours. Like, it doesn't feel like it. That's the best part. Like, I agree with everything you just said, but 3 hours, like, who else do we know that's a 2-person team that can sit up here and have as much to talk about and as organized as we do
Mm-hmm.
for 3 hours. A lot of that I attribute to your preparation for the show, because for your preparation, it lays up the foundation of how the show goes. But there's not many other people that I know that can do a 3-hour podcast with someone and be able to keep up from beginning to end. For that, that definitely attributes to both of what we give and the energy we bring. But I have just as much fun with you as you do with me, and I appreciate everything you put into it, my man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. It means that doing this and preparing for it is well worth it. Look, everybody, thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting as well, both in the YouTube and the X and the LinkedIn and the Twitch space and in the Pro Sports Fans app as well. And also, thank you for hitting that notification bell so you can catch any and all content that you have heard from Sotoba Media and that you also heard from Drew from the Comey Media YouTube channel as well. We appreciate all of you all the time. For Drew Willingham, I'm Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as we always do, in life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And always remember, you got to play until the whistle blows. See you next week.